Today on Sportsworld, we witness a community in crisis when a local hero walks away from the Faithfull.
And over the last 2 days, I've thought long and hard and decided that my playing future lays elsewhere.
And we ask the question, are our two biggest footy codes at the crossroads?
Off the field in Newcastle, where fans gathered in support of 5'8" Matt Johns as they called for officials to get the flick. On the paddock, the Knights wiped away the week of turmoil to blitz the Auckland Warriors.
Well, too easy on the far side.
Newcastle ran in 6 tries to 2 to jump into the top 4, for now anyway. Bernard Cohen, reporting for Sportsworld.
The Broncos are now 4 points ahead of the pack on 24 points. The Tigers continue to surprise, safe in second whether they win or lose today. And Newcastle is in an equal third with the Storm after its surprise loss to the Panthers.
Newcastle after this.
Coming up on Sportsworld, we witness the heartache of a community as they watch a local hero walk away. And we'll see the fans struggling to come to terms with the business of sport.
Now, if you rip the heart out of the Knights with the Johns brothers, they're going to die. The director's got a lot to answer for.
A heart-wrenching story about how the corporate dollar continues to dictate the game of rugby league. On Thursday night, one of the most loved players in the game, Matthew Johns, announced he was leaving his beloved Newcastle Knights because they couldn't make him an offer under the salary cap. And yesterday, there was an extraordinary reaction from the Newcastle faithful. With the report, Peter Cahoon.
These folk are the sporting diehards, a special breed of supporter who cling to the quaint notion that sport in the 21st century is still all about passion and loyalty.
Matty Johns! Matty Johns!
For them, the cold, harsh economic realities of the modern game mean nothing when you're losing one of your favourite sons. Matthew Johns is a hero around these parts. He's been forced to leave the Newcastle Knights over something called the salary cap.
Matthew Johns! Matthew Johns! Matthew Johns!
They're a local team. If you rip the heart out of someone, they'll die. Now, if you rip the heart out of the Knights with the Johns brothers, they're going to die. The director's got a lot to answer for.
We want to keep Matty in the club because he's been in it for so long, and you know it's just wrong that the club's letting him go.
It's pretty emotional stuff, mate. Yeah. To think that your son so highly thought of by the community and so probably lesser thought of by the people who run the club.
What makes it especially hard for these fans is that for 10 years Matthew has given loyal service to the club. He, along with his younger brother Andrew Joey Johns, are local juniors, born and raised in the coalfields of Newcastle.
Stadium, and Matthew steps off the left. Oh, Matthew Johns!
Apart from being wonderfully talented and gifted, he's also as tough as they come.
The Johns boys have bled not only for their club, but for their state and country. But at the end of the season, they, along with 9 other players at the Knights, are coming off contract, and the club can't afford to keep them all. Sensing he was no longer wanted, Matthew decided during the week he would be the knight to fall on his sword.
And over the last 2 days, I've thought long and hard and decided that my playing future lays elsewhere.
The announcement stunned the local community, and they wanted answers on how something like this could happen.
Why don't the board get up now?
Yeah, what has that? They haven't got the guts to face us all.
Roger Hill's a dictator.
That we were some hundreds of thousands of dollars away from what we knew Matthew would get somewhere else.
The man cast as the villain in this modern-day sporting drama is Knights CEO Michael Hill. Hill, like other league administrators, are desperately trying to contain the salary cap and player payments.
The trap with football teams is that if you treat them as a business only and forget the emotional connection, you'll lose the balance. And if you only think of them as an emotional football team and forget the business side, well, you go down the tube.
You know, hard decisions have got to be made. I don't think I know they've made the wrong decision.
But in Newcastle, what the board severely misjudged was the effect their decision would have on Matthew's younger brother Andrew, widely regarded as the best player in the world and who the Knights want to keep.
I was sort of really bitter when I first heard it, but you know, it's sad in a way. We both want to play our careers out together and both want to play it out in Newcastle. Any time in your career when it would have been easy to leave, this is now, you know.
One of the biggest questions in rugby league now is where will the talented Johns boys play next year? Offers have come in from everywhere, including the rugby union. If it was up to Andrew, he'd like to stick with his older brother.
I think Matthew's had, I don't know if you had talks with Northern Eagles or you spoke to someone there, but, you know, that'd be something I might have to look at because, you know, I've got a great relationship with Peter Sharp and, you know, it's only down the road. in Gosford, you know, maybe a change would be all right.
We want Matty! We want Matty!
Where's the loyalty?
The thought of losing both Johns brothers in Newcastle is almost too much for some to comprehend. For Matthew, he can sympathise with his supporters, but for him, there's no turning back.
Days, and I thought long and hard about it, and to be quite honest, it's very hard for me to stay and play in an environment where I believe that the offers would only come as a result of public backlash and sponsor backlash and the chance that Andrew may walk out because of the bad blood that it's created.
So many people in this area look up to him and aspire to be just like him, and for him to no longer be at a club because of salary cap restrictions is very disappointing.
Yeah, I don't think you know, the supporters are too pleased about the way it's been handled. You know, from a player's point of view, I feel that maybe it could have been handled a little bit better.
No, I'm happy with what we've done. Sometimes the selling of the message is different, but the message is that we have to comply with the cap.
Coming to terms with the realities of player payments and the salary cap isn't an easy one for fans nor the clubs, but next year the NRL has vowed to clamp down on any club in breach of the cap with $500,000 fines, the sacking of club CEOs and the docking of 2 competition points.
Newcastle! Newcastle!
But on the ground, reality bites hard among those who believe there's more to this game than dollars and cents. For Gary Johns, the father of Matty and Andrew, it's tough seeing your kids under so much public pressure.
We love him to death, his mum and dad. Oh, well, I don't have to say stick together because they'll always do that, you know. It's, I don't really know what to say.
Dad's always been a big Knights fan, and then when myself and Andrew come into playing first grade, he's just so proud. As I said to him a couple of times, I said, don't worry about it, guys, just settle down, you're getting too stressed, it's going to cut years off your life. And he said to me, you'll know what it's like when you have kids. So.
Newcastle fans may have lost one of their finest, but he's vowed to return one day when the bottom line is no longer an issue.
I do want to come back, and I've spoken to the club, and I think I can offer something to the club once my playing days are over. But the bottom line is I want to come back with my 2 young fellas, sit on the hill and cheer on all these other blokes that are going to come through and play for the Knights on other crusades.
Never reaching the end.
Well, it might only be 2 brothers in one club, but it is a very big issue, isn't it? David Moffat will be along later in the program from the National Rugby League to talk about the salary cap and its implications. And John Harker with Roy Masters will talk about it after this break, along with Bill Harragon.
Of things. I mean, we've just seen that segment there with the Johns brothers, and particularly Matthew Johns. You refereed him on Wednesday night. You're obviously aware of the saga. Did it give you some special joy the way that he played?
You mean Andrew?
Andrew, yeah.
Sensational. He was used well off the bench as a game breaker, and that's exactly what he did. And when I'm out there refereeing, you got players like that, you're in awe of those players because you can see what they're doing. You can read or see how they're reading the play and shuffling. Like Wally Lewis was great at it, shuffling players around the field and setting them up 3 or 4 plays in advance. And Andrew Johns does the same.
Are you saddened by a story like that? I mean, how does that impact on you?
I try not to get too involved in that, Bruce, because my job's obviously different, refereeing, going to do the games. So I don't want to get caught up in the emotion of clubs and players. But yeah, it's still sad to see something like that, but I try not to get involved. Yeah.
Enormous rebuilding for them. They're going to lose their coach who's retiring. Butterfield's retiring. They'll lose the 2 Johns brothers, I feel. I don't think Andrew will stay.
No.
And I think they'll lose Adam MacDougall. So 5 senior people, they're 2 most senior inspirational leaders, their captain, the coach, all going. It's an enormous rebuilding period for Newcastle. What about this for a little rumour? South Sydney back in, Johns boys play with the Bunnies.
And Adam MacDougall to join them.
Yeah. Doing the rounds, and it's not as outrageous as you may think.
Gee, Andrew Johns seemed to think Gosford was all right a moment ago on the telly, didn't he? Which is Northern Eagles.
Well, you touched base on the Newcastle issue. It's just so sad. It's just like a bomb going off at Newcastle now. Speculation Andrew Johns is going to leave. You know, Newcastle, they're not a franchise, they're a footy team, and you know, I don't know. I just think it's been poorly handled, and I just think, imagine Newcastle without the Johns boys. You just shudder to think, you know, what's going to happen to Newcastle?
Be like South without the Falcon, wouldn't it?
That'd be right, mate. Yeah.
Heart
is
and soul.
that a wrap?
That's a wrap. Heart and soul of the joint. They
On
are.
the Grounds award to finish on this Sunday morning.
Very good morning. This one, the Around the Grounds Man of the Week, is one of the Sunday Footy Show's favourite sons. It is none other than Jonty Gibbs, and here he is on screen, a recent picture of John. But also, I should say, that was he's got a hairpiece on there. But he did write a very good article during the week in Big League magazine with a suggestion for the Newcastle officials, perhaps to put Matthew Johns on as assistant coach as one way of getting around the salary cap restrictions. Perhaps half his money could be coaching, half his money designated to his playing career. And Jonty Gibbs is online from the Sydney Football Stadium to talk more about it. Not a bad proposal, John.
Yeah, thanks, Andrew. Look, I think that everything should be done to try and keep Matthew Johns in Newcastle. Obviously, after the meeting last Thursday night, it doesn't look as though there's any hope at all. But it's no secret, Andrew, that Matthew Johns, during the good years for the Newcastle Knights, did plenty of the coaching. Even when Malcolm Reilly was there and they won the competition in 1997, a lot of the responsibility for the coaching did fall on the shoulders of Matthew Johns. So I think it might have been in the best interest of the club to maybe offer him the assistant coach's job with a view to the future, but that doesn't look like it's going to be. Andrew, look, there's no doubt about it, Matthew Johns wasn't wanted by the Newcastle club. They're hiding behind the salary cap. I don't know what's gone wrong up there, but the Newcastle club is soon going to realise that their greatest asset, their greatest resource is their people, their supporters. And with Matthew Johns gone, and most likely Andrew Johns gone, I just fear for the future of this club. And it is a football club, it's not a franchise, and they're going to work that out. I think they've backed themselves into a corner now, and with Matthew gone, Andrew possibly gone, Adam MacDougall gone, gee, I worry for the future, not only from a Newcastle perspective, but also from a rugby league perspective, because it's just a little bit more of the tradition of rugby league that's gone. Assistant coaching would have been the way to go. Ironically, Malcolm Reilly is the forerunner to come back and coach the club anyway. It'll probably be Malcolm Reilly or Michael Hagan who does get the coaching role next year.
Well, John, you were there in Newcastle yesterday. We've just got a bit of vision of the rally of the supporters. Very briefly, what is the solution that is going to happen here? These are the unhappy Newcastle supporters. That group is sure to grow. If they don't get to a solution, what is going to be the happy ending?
Well, I don't think there will be a happy ending, Andrew. As I said before, they've backed themselves into a corner. It's been poorly handled, and they want to have a long, hard look at themselves, because Newcastle is going to be all the poorer for the loss of not only Matthew Johns, but those who follow in the aftermath.
OK, Gibbsy, well, for your article in Big League and your work on 2GB this season, you're our Man of the Week. I'm sure that's a tremendous thrill.
Thank you, Andrew. I'm absolutely privileged with that.
Think it's Matty Johns.
Well, the boys were in a heap of trouble against Brisbane. You went off after 20 minutes and things turned around. They started going okay.
It was amazing. Yeah, something in that.
Turning point.
I tried to get Red Dragon out there, but oh, look at this. But yeah, mate, I'll tell you what, the one great thing to come out of the game, Justin Holbrook, he's a bloke I really feel sorry for, because, I mean,
he's the halfback.
Who want to be the reserve grade halfback at Newcastle with Andrew there? It's a tough ask. And, mate, he just played tremendous, and he led from the front, and it was great. And you see me go off there. And
treading on bendies there.
Yeah, mate. And as I said, I'm out for 1 or 2 weeks, and I had a yarn to Red Dragon, but he can't play. He's suffering from gout.
What about your own future? I mean, there's been lots of stories. You're offered the coaching role, we believe. You knocked that back. The last time you were on the show, there was no chance you were staying at Newcastle. Is that still the case?
Well, I've said that, that my future lays elsewhere, and I've really got to sort of stand by that. I've made my decision now, and I'm looking, probably towards a new challenge. I've had a yarn to the Newcastle officials, and a lot of things are settled. I've had a great time there, and the future of the club's in great hands. Got a lot of great young players coming through. So I've got to weigh up what I'm going to do.
Rejected Newcastle 5'8" Matthew Johns has decided his playing future. He's agreed to terms with English club Wigan. Johns has accepted a 2-year deal starting early 2001. The offer only marginally better than what he could have received by joining another NRL club. Parramatta is believed to have offered him $350,000. As late as yesterday, Johns was still in talks with the ARU, contemplating a switch to rugby union, but has turned his back on that idea to head overseas.
One of rugby league's most wanted men, Matthew Johns, has decided his playing future lies overseas with English club Wigan. And the Novocastrian isn't alone. Several big-name players coming off contract are about to announce their playing futures.
In his 8 years with the Knights, Matthew Johns realised the ultimate in league, winning a first-grade premiership.
Newcastle have won the grand final!
On top of 4 appearances for New South Wales and 8 for Australia. But he's now opted to leave brother Andrew behind and agreed to a 2-year deal starting in 2001. While the Knights' Danny Badiris is expected to announce his future will be with Parramatta. Michelle Kieran reporting for Sportsworld.
Going. The salary cap, is that going to
Salary cap is biting very heavily, as the Sunday papers today revealed, and the fact that Matthew Johns is going off to play for Wigan. It's quite clear that the $3.25 million salary cap will be thoroughly policed in 2001, and we are seeing some of our top players being forced to go and play.
Hang on, he hasn't been forced to go over there at all. We spoke to Matthew Johns yesterday. I don't believe he's been forced one iota.
Well, the system's forced him to go.
He didn't want to play against Newcastle, okay, and he's had a dream since he was a little boy sitting down watching a Challenge Cup
He
final.
believes footballers have dreams.
No, he
The
doesn't.
only dreams they have is how much money they can get in their bank account.
Oh,
mate. That's the only
rubbish.
dream.
Is
God,
that-
tomorrow morning I hope there's another $2 million there.
Steve, can we bring the footballer into it? What do you think, Stephen?
Well, I mean, Challenge Cup final, play for the Cherry and Whites. It'd be a great way to go out if you've achieved everything else in your career, wouldn't it?
Yeah, well, Matty, like he's played for Australia and New South Wales, and he's done everything. So he's probably in a good situation to go and do that. It's it's a good chance for him. But I think if they're going to do it, they've got to really police it. Like we've been talking about it since I've been playing at Canterbury, 8 years, that they're going to police it, and they haven't really policed it. These clubs have been getting away with things. So
salary cap is going to bite, but I just think it's unfair to suggest that Matthew Johns is going there solely for money, because he's not going there solely for money.
No,
but it will bite, and other players will go. But I still think, for the most part, you're going to find players going there almost as a bit of superannuation. That's not Matthew's case. He's at his peak at the moment. Still won't be able to have a Stephen Price, for example, or anyone, but a Matthew Johns or an Andrew Johns going over there for a 10 or 12 game stint, the way Lewis, Sterling, Kenny, Joe Kildorrehy, who ended up staying there longer, and so many other players have done in the past. I think it's a shame.
Steve, how destabilising is it for a player at a club that's been there for a long time to see, A, a lot of people moving, and B, the fact that salaries will be reduced?
Well, we had it in '95 when, the Super League ARL thing was going on. We had players like Jim Dimmick, Dean Pay, all these guys, and all of a sudden they're leaving. They've been at the club for a while and that sort of thing. It's something that it'll inspire those Newcastle guys to really, play out the season, because it is going to be their last chance to play together. So in that respect, it is great for the Newcastle players, but also it's disappointing for the Newcastle fans.
There's something happening in rugby league. There's a membership drives happening all over the place, especially in Newcastle.
The Newcastle Knights today launched a membership drive, and I think it's probably something that a lot of clubs may get into. It's an initiative taken by Newcastle, and that's why the Footy Show got involved, and we want to get all the other clubs involved also. But there's some tough times up at Newcastle.
This started with the Melbourne Footy Show, didn't it?
Well, going back a few weeks, the Demons down there on the Channel 9 Footy Show got involved with the membership drive. It was extremely successful. So when the Knights came to us and said, look, what can we do? Came up with this idea. So we're going to cross to Billy Peden and Danny Badiris up there at the moment, and hopefully it's going very well. Guys, have you got us?
Yeah, how you going there, guys?
Well, gentlemen, how is it going? How successful has the day been?
Sounds pretty successful, but yeah, the Knights have definitely decided to start a membership drive, and it's something that we're pretty proud of. We think that the Newcastle supporters can really get behind it and sort of outdo the Melbourne folks. So we're pretty confident, and fans are ringing.
Well, Billy, what do the fans get who do pay the $35 to get the membership? What is in it for them?
Yeah, well, along with a chance to sort of have a voice in, or the region to have a voice in the way the club goes, it's also they get a lapel pin, stickers, cards. There's all sorts of little things there for people to get if they get involved. And like I said, they also get the chance to have a voice in the way the clubs run.
And do the fans get to say meet a lot of the players and go to training, things like that?
Yeah, Fatty, they've got lots of things like that. Also, we've got lots of phones ringing here. Yeah, they do. They have chances to barbecues to go to with the players, and there's all sorts of things like that. I'm not sure of all of them at the moment, but yeah, there's hoops for the fans to get involved in.
So we see Matty Parsons, plenty of the guys there. Danny Badiris, your name is featuring a fair bit in the press. getting any closer to where you will be playing next year? And for Newcastle fans, how confident they can be you'll be in the red and blue?
Yeah, Stello, it sort of kicked off today pretty serious. Had a meeting with me and Burnett and all the manager and that. So, mate, hopefully it'll start to roll on, but who knows?
Okay, well, good luck up there, guys. We'll keep crossing to you, and I think it's a fantastic idea, and I think something a lot of other clubs will pick up on.
Yeah, what we've done, we've got all the club numbers if you want to ring your club and see what's happening with these this situation. There are the club numbers coming up then for each and every club that you support.
Junior and Darren, I think one of the problems with our game is that the fans have become alienated from the players and from the clubs. Is this a way that maybe the Tigers would look at getting the fans closer and that affinity back?
Certainly. I think the Super League war did a lot to alienate fans because of the exorbitant money that players were being paid and the status that the players were put upon. But this is a great way for fans to understand that clubs are only as strong as their supporter base, and it's a fantastic idea. We're always on the lookout for more members.
And Darren, you guys, obviously in your first year, I've noticed you've been very, very aware of getting your fans involved. We've seen open training sessions and that out there, and that'll obviously continue.
Yeah, definitely. We like to get the kids out to training just to see a little bit of what we do. And also, you know, there's always barbecues here and there so that the guys can really sort of get to know their players, and that's what the supporters really want to do. They want to get to know their players and get to be involved with them. So this is a great way to achieve that.
All right, all good news for all supporters in Rugby League. Ring those numbers and catch up with your club and see what's doing with them. We mentioned, of course, before the Newcastle boys are up there drumming up business and heading back there now to talk to Matt Parsons and Darren Albert. What's doing, boys? Tell us about what's happening there now.
Mate, it's going bananas up here at the moment. We've only got 7 guys answering phones and we've had over 500 phone calls, so the boys are earning their money tonight. We're very busy, mate. I just might take this opportunity to take a phone call myself, Fatty. I'll just...
Yeah, righto.
Your name and number. Hello, Matt Parsons here.
He's got the fat phone.
Oh, yeah, can we take your number, mate? Yeah. Name? Reg Reagan. Oh, okay, mate. Listen, mate, one of the secretaries will have to get back to you tomorrow. Reg, where can we find you, mate? The Burwood Hotel, Merriweather. Okay, mate. Yeah, okay. We'll get that call made tomorrow, mate. Thanks, Reggie.
Good on you, Reg Reagan up there, of course. A la Matty Johns. Now, so how much is it again? Tell us about it again. How much do they pay?
It's $35. $35 for a senior membership, and it's $11 for junior membership. So everyone keep bringing it in. I think people have been on hold for about half an hour so far, so the lines are holding up.
Yeah, stay on the phones. Darren, a couple of weeks back, we heard about your injury. Some reports that it might have been career-threatening. How are you going along?
Well, actually, I'm seeing my doctor on Tuesday to find out really what's going on. So I've got 3 sort of scenarios. 1, if it's healing pretty well, I'll be back in the next couple of weeks. 2, might need a little bit longer. And 3, could cost me the season, so we'll just see.
OK, well, good luck with that. Matty Parsons, quickly before you go, reports down here also that Michael Hagan will be announced as the Newcastle coach tomorrow. Is that what will be happening?
Oh, mate, that's the mail we've got. I hope it is, mate. He's done a great job, Hags, and he'll continue to do so. Just before we finish, boys, I'd just like to say that there's only 7 of us here tonight, so if anyone can't get through tonight, they can ring the football club tomorrow at Newcastle, OK?
Well done.
And when the people ring up, they're obviously saying, can you give me the wave on the telly, because Clinton O'Brien there and Billy Peden just keep waving at the people. Well, good on you, boys, and we might cross back to you a bit later once again. Please thank the boys up there for us in Newcastle. Matty Parsons, Darren Albert. The Newcastle now, still going up there. It's like a telethon, isn't it? And joining us now, it's Steve Simpson and Clinton O'Brien. Welcome, boys. What's happened in the last 6 minutes? Anything?
Oh, mate, these phones have just been non-stop, and Griefy up at the end, he hasn't put the phone down. The boys have just been inundated with calls, so it's been really good.
How many calls you reckon you've had? Couple of thousand?
Oh, I couldn't tell you, but I think the boys haven't taken away from their ear, and they're still ringing now, so there's plenty going on.
Steve, what's doing? You're looking good?
Trying to, mate, yeah. Yep. Looking all right.
You're playing well, good footy?
Yeah, it's been good actually. Yeah, the team's going pretty well the last few weeks, so yeah, it's been a lot easier to play and in the winning side. Yeah, it's good.
All right, Steve and Clinton, thanks very much. Of course, there's the number for all your Newcastle Knights supporters. Keep ringing in and, of course, ring the club tomorrow if you can't get on tonight. Please thank Clinton and Steve Simpson.
Well done, guys. That was very good, the Newcastle boys out there.
Well, Newcastle did what most people expected today and named Mick Hagan as their new coach for next year.
Yeah, Michael Hagan's been appointed on a 2-year contract, played 111 games with the Knights, so he's pretty familiar with the place. He's currently coaching their first division side. Very articulate, very likeable sort of a guy. I've got to say, he's probably going to be an interesting change from Warren Ryan, to say the least. And needless to say, Tim, he's thrilled to have the job.
Even though I'm considerably younger than a lot of senior coaches, I think that's not such a bad thing. Certainly, I bring enthusiasm and I'm prepared to work very hard at what I do. But I've also had the experience of working with and playing under a lot of very good coaches over a number of years.
Yeah, chalk and cheese with Was.
NRL clubs continue to sign up their stars. Newcastle today securing Danny Baderas for another 2 years.
Earlier on, Russell Fairfax caught up with the Newcastle Knights captain Tony Butterfield.
Yeah, currently in 5th position. I don't think you'll miss out, but consistency now leading into the finals is vital.
Well, I think so. I think you know, the outcomes of the games, whilst important in terms of staying in the top 8, aren't altogether the ultimate point. I think for us the big point is to continually improve on you know, different facets of our game that we have dropped in recent weeks, and if we can continue to do that, it should hold us in good stead for the semi-finals.
This could put a scare into the opposition. When are you back to full strength, everybody on deck?
Mate, I don't know that that's going to be possible. I'm a little dubious about the return of Darren Albert and Robbie O'Davis. They have injuries that no one can really put a time frame on. But having said that, we've got some young blokes who can certainly fill the void there. In terms of full strength, without those two, I think within the next 2 to 3 weeks, with Ben Kennedy coming back, Peter Shields, etc., a few other blokes, we'll be close to full strength a month out from the semis.
Good luck today.
Thanks, mate.
The NRL calls it a local derby, and while some would disagree, there's still plenty of passion between Newcastle and the Northern Eagles. The Eagles out of the finals running, but hoping to damage Newcastle's hopes of a top 4 finish.
Playing for pride and contracts, the Eagles were on the back foot immediately until Matt Orford's intercept laid the foundation for the first try.
The kick ahead, the bounce is a good one for Roy.
Newcastle evened the ledger quickly and surged ahead, with Adam MacDougall picking up the next 2.
MacDougall, he's in for his second try.
Jeff Tuvey and a familiar trip to the blood bin. While he was off, his side showed they may make a match of it. Muir's sidestepped the envy of backs everywhere. The score 12-all.
Muir steps MacDougall, and Muir's going to score a very good try.
Less than 10 minutes out from half-time, Newcastle forwards charged over twice, led by Tony Butterfield, before Billy Peden was on the end of the try of the match to put his side ahead 28-12 at the break.
Peden, this is the Newcastle Knights at their brilliant best.
The Knights continued on in the second half the way they finished the first, with another prop forward crashing over.
Trying to find a way through. Clinton O'Brien, soft in the end.
But the backs weren't to be outdone. Adam MacDougall showing why he is one of the best wingers in the game.
And he got the pass away. Great work, Adam MacDougall, and Mark Hughes will run away and score the try.
Adam Muir, the only Eagles player who could hold his head up high, contributing to one of their 2 second-half tries.
Inside, and he's going to dot it down for a try for the Eagles.
But it was the Knights' day, pushing past the magic half-century 30 seconds out from full-time.
And that scoreboard is not a pretty picture for the Eagles. For the Knights, Adam MacDougall and David Fairley starring, Newcastle firmly in the top 8.
Very hard to pick a best player. I wouldn't have a clue who got players player, but it was particularly, I imagine, particularly pleasing for Dave Fairley. We got beaten in the first game by them down there, and I think Dave carried an injury into the game, but he was determined to play, and he did a terrific job out there for us today.
It's typical of our season, Barry. No patches of some pretty reasonable play, and patches of some dusty play. We just can't string 2 halves together, can we, mate? Well, occasionally we can string a half together, but not 2. So that's been our problem all year.
Newcastle fullback Adam MacDougall has starred in the Knights' 32-point thrashing of the Northern Eagles. MacDougall scored 2 of the Knights' 10 tries in their 52-20 victory.
The Eagles are out of finals calculations, but gave the Knights a scare in the opening minutes.
The bounce is a good one for Roy.
Steve Menzies' touch with the boot matched at the other end by Andrew Johns.
Been picked up by Adam MacDougall.
5 minutes later, MacDougall went solo for his second, giving Newcastle a 12-6 lead. But his defence couldn't prevent the visitors levelling, a former Knight finishing off some adventurous play from the Eagles.
Muir steps MacDougall.
That's where the Eagles' challenge ended. A soft try to Tony Butterfield started an avalanche. The Knights playing touch footy and opening up a 28-12 lead at the break.
Simpson gets the pass away. Peden, this is the Newcastle Knights at their brilliant best.
best.
Even David Fairley turned playmaker in the second half, setting up the first of Tahu's double. Newcastle crossed for another 3 tries and bringing up their 52 points. Man of the match, Adam MacDougall, unstoppable.
Great work, Adam MacDougall, and Mark Hughes will run away and score the try.
Newcastle has returned to the winner's circle in style, thrashing the Northern Eagles at Marathon Stadium today. The Knights scored 10 tries to 4, winning the game 52-20.
Against the run of play and courtesy of a wayward Andrew Johns pass, the Eagles set sail for first points. And quick thinking by Orford and Menzies helped produce the try.
Bounces a good one for Roy.
Johns made amends with the perfect chip for a hungry MacDougall, and the Eagles almost choked on his next effort.
MacDougall!
Before the break, the Eagles were back on level terms after a second rower stepped like a centre.
Muir steps MacDougall, and
Newcastle's Rahihi looked certain to score until this. His captain then showed him the way.
Butterfield.
The heart was then torn out of any hopes of an Eagles comeback, with Newcastle producing a classic rugby league try.
This is the Newcastle Knights at their brilliant best.
MacDougall simply terrorised his opponents. Almost every time he touched the ball, the Eagles landed in trouble.
Hughes will run away and score the try.
Now, Andrew Johns finally decided his future.
Yes, he has, Tim. He's agreed to a new 4-year contract with the Newcastle Knights. He didn't go public today, but of course there's a press conference tomorrow. That is good news for the Newcastle Knights. The red-headed player, Sean Rudder, is also going to stay on with the Knights as well.
Sport now with Carly and Andrew Johns to stay in Newcastle.
And he's agreed to a 4-year deal with the Knights. More on that next. Andrew Johns has settled his playing future, agreeing to stay on at Newcastle. Rejecting an offer from the Broncos, he's now set to stay a Knight forever.
Andrew Johns was a man with a huge weight lifted from his shoulders today, signing a 4-year deal to stay with the Knights. The star half intent on playing out his career in Newcastle.
I'm just happy to stay here and I'll probably retire now in Newcastle, which I wanted to do when I first started playing here.
Johns had agonised for months over a big contract from the Broncos. When the Knights failed to offer brother Matthew a new deal, Andrew was ready to cross the border.
He's got his life to lead and he had to do what made him happy, and by staying here that's what it's done, and he's made the right decision.
With Matthew off to Wigan, Andrew couldn't abandon his teammates.
They're great fellas, and I would have felt like I was letting them down if I left probably.
Johns decided to stick loyal after a heart-to-heart yesterday with Michael Hagan, the man the Knights have appointed to replace Warren Ryan as coach for next year.
I just got him in a headlock, mate, and said, you've got to stay. The fact that Andrew's agreed to stay means that you've got a team you can build your team around, or a player you can build your team around.
The hope now for the Knights is that their young guns will follow suit.
Yeah, well, I know if I was a young bloke off contract and Andrew Johns has just signed at the club for 4 more years, it'd be the kind of place I'd want to hang around.
The Johns brothers are intent on sealing this deal with a farewell premiership.
We've had some real good times here together, and hopefully we've got some good ones to come, so we'll go out in the high.
Patrick Mullahan, 7 News.
Okay, with sport next, and Knights fans will be highly delighted tonight.
Yes, Andrew Johns has signed up for another 4 years. A collective sigh of relief from the Newcastle area tonight, with Andrew Johns deciding to stay with the Knights for another 4 years. At one stage, the champion halfback looked certain to be lost to the club, which already has had to give up his brother Matthew.
With the most sought-after signature in rugby league, Johns first broke the news during a Footy show interview with brother Matthew.
Yeah, mate, I am happy. It's been probably a torrid couple of months. It's dragged on for a while, but I was glad to get it over and done with, and I'm happy to stay.
He was being hotly chased by Brisbane, but decided to stay home on a rumoured $2 million deal.
Well, great news for rugby league, Peter. Of course, only today, Andrew Johns re-signed with the Newcastle side for 4 years.
Yeah, good news for Newcastle and for rugby league in general. Yep. Signed for 4 years, and that's fantastic. It does appear as though Tamana Tahu will start there as well. Of course, that comes on top of the big news yesterday. Laurie Daly announcing his retirement at the end of the year. 14 fabulous years down at Canberra. And he'll actually
Living
be
legend,
joining us
Laurie.
tonight, which is wonderful. So 2 of our big names involved in some big news in the last 48 hours.
Of course, Andrew Johns, he only signed today, and about 15 minutes after that, Matthew Johns, his lovable brother, caught up with him and asked him about what he felt about the whole situation.
Well, Joe, congratulations, mate. Re-signed with the club. You must be happy.
Yeah, mate, I am happy. It's been probably a torrid couple of months. It's dragged on for a while, but I was glad to get it over and done with, and I'm
I'm happy to stay. Mate, there was obviously Brisbane in the picture, but was there any time that you were considering you were very close to going there?
Well, you know, with the anti-tampering laws, I didn't really speak to them officially, but you know, I sort of sat down and I had to think about you know, what I was doing with the rest of my football career, and I know if I went up there under Wayne Bennett and played alongside blokes like Gordon and Wendell Saylor, maybe I could improve. But you know, with the young players here, and you know, I love living in Newcastle, and you know, I just want to play for the club and do my best and bring them young blokes along and you know, bring them along and hopefully you know, lead them into better players.
4 years you signed for, Joe?
Yeah, 4 years.
So, mate, what do you think at the end of that 4 years? Do you think, you know, I mean, it's a long way off. Can you see yourself finishing your NRL career with the Knights? Or?
Yeah, I'll probably, you know, the way I feel now, you know, I want to finish at the top of my game. I don't want to be, you know, for people are saying, hang on, you know, he played for 1 year too long. So I think 30 might pull me up. The game's been pretty good to me. You know, money-wise, I'm probably going to be looked after if I don't punt all that money away. But you know, by then, if I want to go around again, I will. But you know, I'll probably sit down and might pull up stumps.
Well, that might do us, mate. Congratulations.
Thanks, mate.
Yeah, it is good news. Loves his footy, and obviously the people of Newcastle and the Hunter Valley will be rapt that their favourite son has decided to stay.
Just like to wish Laurie all the best. He's had a great career. He's achieved everything anyone could ever achieve, and you know, probably in the late 80s, early 90s, you know, him and a couple of Canberra blokes probably changed the way the game was played.
Congratulations on your career, Laurie, and it's not easy, I suppose, to retire, but if I achieve half what you've done, I'll be a very happy man when I put my boots on.
Knights tackle the Dragons on Sunday. Newcastle buoyant after the re-signing of playmaker Andrew Johns.
Yeah, no, it's a good plus for the, you know, for the games ahead, that there's not the uncertainty about his future.
Andrew Johns is staying on at Newcastle. I mean, how do you feel about that? He's going to finish his career hopefully there.
Yeah, I mean, those type of guys, you just hope that they stay at the one club. I think that they're synonymous with their teams, you know, and to see Andrew Johns running around in another jumper, it just wouldn't look the same. And you know, him and Brad Fittler are the two best players in the game today, and their skills are outstanding. And you know, it was great for Newcastle, and I'm sure it was great for Michael Hagan, and he's just been announced as Newcastle coach, so I'd like to congratulate Hags too. He's a terrific fella, and I know he'll do a good job up there at Newcastle.
And the West Mitchelland Club, the junior club in Brisbane, it's produced plenty of superstars over the years, Queensland Origin players, Test players, and now their first ever NRL coach in Michael Hagan, and Michael joins us right now. G'day, Nick. Remember those days, mate, the kids?
Yeah, I do.
Beautiful stuff, and it's good to see you got the job. Congratulations, first of all, on it. I think everyone in rugby league, especially up there in Newcastle, happy you've got the job. How did it come about? How did you find out?
Came about through the fact that Warren retired. Probably in the last 6 to 8 weeks, Warren acknowledged that he'd had enough, and I had the opportunity to coach First Division this year, having been in Canberra for 2 years. And when it was established that Warren was going to retire, I spoke to Michael Hill and said, sure, I'll put my hat in the ring. But in all fairness, I thought there may have been a better qualified, high-profile coach in the running, like the gentleman sitting to my right at the moment, for example, because it's obviously a big job and a pretty important one up there.
It's an exciting opportunity for you. How would you describe yourself as a coach?
I'm probably learning that, Mario, at the moment. I think you know, I've worked with and played under a lot of good coaches over a long time, and worked with Graham Murray a little bit, and become pretty good friends with him in the last year or two, and I quite like his style, and he's doing a pretty good job at the Roosters at the moment, but I'm sure that'll all unfold in the next 12 months or so, mate.
And not a bad springboard for you this year, being under Warren Ryan, of course. I would imagine that would be a learning process also.
Yeah, well, I played under Warren at Canterbury many years ago, and I was probably on the receiving end of some of those very honest observations back then.
He used to give you plenty of sprays, did he?
Yeah, and I think, you know, back then that was from the old school, and you expected that, and you played at Canterbury where you knew that was coming if you didn't aim up, and probably made me a better player, if anything.
Yeah, but you were a good player. I mean, us ordinary players had to play a lot worse than that. We got more sprays than you.
But I think, you know, Warren, he sets pretty high standards for his players. And I think, and getting to work with him in the last 4 or 6 weeks I mean, you couldn't get a better run into a work experience type situation. Working with the guys in Newcastle last month has been terrific. The feedback from the players has been pretty encouraging. So a lot of good young blokes here to work with.
In the last week or two, in view of the fact that Warren knows that he's going and you're taking over next year, has he got you more directly involved with the players at all?
Yeah, I've had a lot more to do with them in recent times, and I think the game's changed to the point where you need people to help you week to week because there's that much in it with the full-time nature of the sport, rehab, you know, the research you've got to do on other teams, and there's a fair bit to get done every week.
Michael, it's a fair vote of confidence in you then. I mean, having been with the club and now that you've got the job, that so many of your players have agreed to re-sign for next season, in particular Andrew Johns, who obviously had a lot of conversation with you before he made his decision.
I don't know if that was just coincidence, Gus, that I spoke to him the day before, but I mean, I think Andrew is very important to Newcastle, generally speaking, and I think the fact that he's been reluctant to make a decision, I think he was quite happy to make the hierarchy sweat for a little while, and I think that had its desired effect on the club. But he's terrific to sit down and talk footy with, and we just spoke about some general football issues on Wednesday, and I'm delighted that he's agreed to stay, and I think that's going to have a very good impact on some of the other young players that are off contract that we're speaking to at the moment.
What about Adam? Sorry, mate. What about Adam MacDougall? I mean, he's still holding out at the moment, but he's played his best ever football at Newcastle. He's represented Australia from Newcastle. I can't believe Adam would want to leave the club.
I don't think deep down he does want to leave the club. I know that the club's had lengthy discussions with his manager in the last week, and that they're doing everything they can to try and keep him, and that the salary cap issues that every club's going through is it making it difficult for players like Dukes, who are, you know, in the top half a dozen players in the game at the moment, and he's a state of origin class player, test player certainly, and I think very important to us next year and the year after if we can tie him down.
All right, Michael, thanks very much for your time this morning. It's
Pleasure.
good to people who don't know you to have seen you in the flesh, and congratulations on the job. Big game this afternoon, of course, against the Dragons out there at the Sydney Football Stadium.
Yeah, it's a big game for the Dragons. I think you know, they'll be fired up, and I know our team are looking forward to it very much.
All right, and we'll look forward to speaking to you as the Newcastle first grade coach next year. Michael Hagan there.
Very good.
I know Michael from a long, long time ago. I know his family very well. Actually, Bob Hagan is your brother, not your father. A lot of people think we're looking at you that...
Good bag.
Old Tom, mate, old Tommy didn't get many shots in. They were quite well spaced. Let me tell you. Bob's about 58 and Michael's 35.
Working beautifully,
We'll
mate.
take a break and come back with more of the footy show after this.
The NRL this afternoon found that referee Bill Harragon made two crucial errors during yesterday's Newcastle St George Illawarra game, but he'll remain in the top grade next weekend. The league says Stephen Clark also made a mistake, forcing a change in the referee's pecking order for next weekend's round.
As some of the Knights cooled off today, others were still hot under the collar. Players and officials are adamant mistakes by referee Bill Harragon cost them yesterday's game against St George Illawarra.
You know, for him to claim that he's best referee and to get in the way on that occasion is very disappointing.
That occasion involved a collision between Harragon and the Dragons' Trent Barrett as the Knights crossed for what they thought was a fair try. The try wasn't awarded after Harragon told the video ref he had impeded the defence by blocking Barrett. But Newcastle argues the Dragons' number 6 was marking another player, and Barrett didn't miss the crucial tackle.
He's Nathan Brown's man.
He was worried about Simpson. He wasn't going to get Medeiros while he's had his pants on.
After fighting back from 26-6 down, the decision denied Newcastle the lead, but the controversy didn't end there. 12 minutes from the finish, another try was denied when Paul Rahihi was ruled to have knocked on.
For mine, that's momentum of the ball.
It's a bother that wrong results keep coming out of games.
Late today, the NRL conceded Newcastle was hard done by. Harragon was at fault.
On to sport now with Kylie Gillies. Bill Harragon back in the news, Kylie.
Ross, even his boss says he got it wrong yesterday. That's next. Newcastle has won some high-powered support for its criticism of referee Bill Harragon after yesterday's match against the Dragons. Harragon's boss says his performance wasn't up to standard, and neither was that of some other officials.
It hasn't sunk Newcastle's premiership bid, but the Knights were not impressed with the raw deal they copped from referee Bill Harragon in yesterday's loss to the Dragons. Two perfectly good tries disallowed.
I've never seen anything like it, you know, in all the years I've been involved in football.
And the National Rugby League agrees. Referees boss Peter Louis says Harragon got it wrong when he disallowed a Danny Medeiros try. Harragon ruled he had impeded defender Trent Barrett.
You know, for him to claim that he's best referee and to get in the way on that occasion is very disappointing.
That would have put Newcastle in front after they trailed at one stage by 20 points. Amazingly, officials also agree Harragon and video referee Peter Filmer were wrong in ruling Paul Rahihi later lost the ball over the line.
where it ends up is on the line, whether it's come down short, that last movement.
He was making the decision for the video referee. It's a bother that wrong results kept coming out of game.
Of course, last week we had the world's sexiest man on the show and fantastic winner, of course, the old stager Luke Ricketson. Good on you, Luke. And we thought we wouldn't see any shirts off apart from last week. Well, we got one on the weekend, and it happened during the Dragons and the Newcastle Knights game. Clinton O'Brien gets his gear off, of all people. And pretty exciting stuff. The ball's in there somewhere. He's on fire. And there he is. He takes the ball up. Good on you, Clinton. Very attractive man. Good on you. And that's one reason why Clinton O'Brien wasn't in the sexiest men of the league last week, because of that body. Refereeing, mate, hasn't got much better the last few weeks, has it?
No, well, I guess if you spend enough time in rugby league, you know that referees are going to make some mistakes. And over a period of time, the good will even out with the bad. But video referees, I mean, I can't get it. They can watch as many as 8 or 10 replays. They can watch it for 3 or 4 different angles. And then within 24 hours come out and say, look, I made a mistake, I got that wrong. And I just can't for the life of me understand, particularly in the Rahihi try in the Newcastle game, how they couldn't get that right on the day. And it was very, very costly to the Newcastle Knights.
You'll hear it is here. And
that's Badira's try.
That's
the one where it's alleged that Bill Harragon had a fair input to the video ref, Pt2, ruling a no try. He actually spoke to Pt2, which I believe is against the normal process for video refereeing, and said that, you see, Trent Barrett was even going the wrong way there, and said, look, I definitely interfere with Barrett. He repeated it a number of times, and eventually it was a no try. This was Rahihi. Now, he looked at this, I reckon, 10 times on the day. Harragon wasn't sure if it was a double movement or not. You'll see the ball come down before the line, but there's no doubt in the world that that was momentum, and the ball was forced onto the goal line for a fair try.
Absolutely.
Round 22 of the NRL is already underway, with Parramatta playing the Warriors in Auckland. But tonight's blockbuster is at Marathon between Newcastle and Sydney City. The Roosters have won their last 4 matches and are second, while Newcastle is clinging to 6th.
Last week's controversial loss to the Dragons cost the Knights 3rd spot, and they're well aware another loss will leave them walking the finals tightrope.
This week, you know, if things don't go well, we can nearly slip out of the 8. So, we're looking to put a good performance on, to try and keep in touch with the top 4.
Without forwards David Fairley and Clinton O'Brien, the return of Matthew Johns will be the key for the Knights as they try and snap the Roosters' 4-year winning streak at Marathon.
I really enjoy playing Newcastle. The Johns brothers, they really they know how to open up a game of football, and it's always one of those games not going to get tied down too much.
One of the toughest road trips in the NRL for the Sydney Roosters tonight, Newcastle at Marathon Stadium. The Roosters were chasing 5 straight wins.
Running into the Knights at home, no marathon for the Sydney Roosters. They haven't been beaten at Newcastle since 1996, but Knights centre Matthew Gidley hoped to flick that trend in the 7th minute.
MacDougall's there, there's that pass from Gidley again.
Adam MacDougall's State of Origin teammate Brian Fletcher spun a surprise of his own, and Roosters captain Brad Fittler did the rest.
Gets away, puts it on the chest of Fittler. You can't beat that left foot step.
The visitors jumping out to a 6-4 lead. The points kept flowing, but it was all Newcastle.
Andrew John, Mark Hughes, Lenny Beckett, what a combination.
The Knights' attacking machine ruffled the Roosters, charging to a 20-6 half-time lead. Andrew Johns untouchable after the break.
He's like an extra forward, so strong, through the tackle of Fittler, then Phillips.
There was no stopping Newcastle. MacDougall notching his double as the Roosters' defence crumbled.
Now for the Knights, this defence by the Roosters is diabolical.
But down 34-6, they had no trouble tackling their own. Catching Joey Johns proved mission impossible.
Oh, look at Andrew Johns, ladies and gentlemen. Then it's his hooker Badiras.
The Knights superhero proving he's more than a modern-day great.
Great players. He may well end up being the greatest we've seen.
The Knights even shocking themselves, handing the Roosters an embarrassing football lesson.
46-12, Andrew Johns leading the way. Believe it or not, that was his first ever hat-trick. Johns bagged 22 points. The 9 tries to 2 demolition lifted the Knights into the top 4.
Well, if we played better, I can't remember. That was just, and bearing in mind who we're playing and the form they're in, I think you'd have to say that's the best performance and the most, electrifying attacking performance the team's exhibited in this season so far.
You get on a bit of a run and a bit of luck and it goes your way, but we've hit the brick wall tonight. We've gone backwards.
He's been called the best player in rugby league, and last night Andrew Johns lived up to that with a performance even he concedes was one of his best. The man they called Joey scored 3 tries as Newcastle beat the Roosters 46-12.
As Andrew Johns soothed the Muscles poolside today, the enormity of last night's performance was beginning to sink in.
Yeah, I've never scored 3 tries sort of ever in my football career, so I'll take it.
It was one of the most dominant displays seen on a football field for some time, and one Johns says he may well be telling the grandkids about.
Andrew Johns, one of the greatest players of all time.
I haven't really sat down and watched it, but it's probably one I'll keep in the video cabinet, and when I'm old and grey, I'll sit back and watch it and enjoy it.
The match had been billed as a showdown between superstars Johns and Brad Fittler, and although the Sydney Roosters captain crossed early, from that point on, it was all the Joey Johns show.
He's just got it all. You run out of superlatives. He may well end up being the greatest we've seen.
I played a different sort of style Friday night. I sort of unloaded a bit earlier, then supported.
The pressure off after re-signing following tense negotiations with the Knights, the live wire half now has a clear mind and a lethal focus. His form sending shivers down the spines of rival clubs as the finals approach.
It's a great time of the year with the semis coming up and just around the corner, so I think everyone's training a little bit harder and just looking forward to those big games.
Last night, Andrew Johns starred in Newcastle's 34-point thumping of the Roosters.
After a 4-year drought against the Roosters in Newcastle, it was the night of nights at Marathon. Adam MacDougall and Andrew Johns, the headline acts.
He puts it over the line.
Johns grabbed his first hat-trick and provided this for Danny Badiris in a 5-star performance.
Badiris, who picks up the 4 points, but Andrew Johns, one of the greatest players of all time.
MacDougall hinting his Newcastle days could be numbered.
I just wanted to come out here tonight and enjoy it because this might be one of my last appearances here.
What was meant to be a battle of the heavyweights turned into a pillow fight at Marathon Stadium last night.
MacDougall's there.
The first of 9 tries against the Roosters scored after just 7 minutes. The avalanche that followed made it a non-contest. Everything the Knights touched and kicked just fell into place. There was Peden's first half pirouette. And Andrew Johns continued the show in the second 40. The Knights won 46-12 and all could take a bow.
Badiris, who picks up the 4 points.
Parramatta's steady rise to prominence in the NRL competition has hit trouble, with both Jason Smith and Daniel Wagon facing spells on the sideline for high tackles. They both came during Friday night's game against Newcastle. Adam MacDougall the victim on both occasions.
On the outside, Smith looked his normal relaxed self today, but on the inside, this latest setback was clearly troubling him. Do you want to say anything about that tackle at all, Jason?
No. You don't want to... Rather not, yeah.
This is the tackle Smith didn't want to talk about. A 9-week suspension is not how Smith wants to finish his 5-year career with the Eels. He's heading to England at the end of the season, and despite the charge, Smith is confident of playing his last home game this weekend.
There's about 6 or 7 players leaving the club at the end of the year, and, you know, we want to finish the year on a high.
For his high hit, also on MacDougall, Daniel Wagon is facing a 2-game suspension.
I thought there was going to be a collision of players.
I haven't missed a game this year yet. That's the first time I've done that since I started playing, so it'd be a bit disappointing to miss one.
MacDougall doesn't want any leniency.
One's bad enough, but having to cop 2 in one night I feel is a little bit unfair.
The Knights are facing their own problems. They had 14 players on the field for approximately a minute in the second half. The NRL is investigating.
The Sharks' Andrew Eddinghausen and Parramatta's Jason Smith may have played their last games in the National Rugby League. A back injury could send ET into an early retirement, while Smith is facing a 9-week suspension for a reckless high tackle.
Knights fullback Adam MacDougall couldn't train today, and he still can't remember a thing from Friday night's game.
Didn't look real good, I must admit, but in saying that, I'm sure there was no real intent on his behalf. It was probably just careless.
The judiciary didn't agree. Smith today charged with a reckless tackle, bound for UK club Hull. His career in Australia over unless he can beat a minimum 7-week ban. Daniel Wagon faces 2 weeks for his high shot. Neither was sent off.
Putting players on report, it's become the easy out
for referees.
It's not the first head I've copped this year, which is probably more concerning to me. In the last 8 weeks, I've seemed to cop a few.
Adding insult to injury, Newcastle could be fined for having 14 men on the field during the loss.
Time to get our guest host on for the night. Please make the first one welcome one of the legends of our game in the modern era. Please make him welcome Paul Harragon. Sit down here. See, he's in a daze. He's in a daze. Another one for the burns unit at Randwick Hospital, courtesy of the fireworks over there. How you doing, champ?
What's
all right?
going with the fireworks? You're frightened one of the best out of me.
Yeah, all right. You've been up there in Newcastle all week. What's been the locals' reaction to the couple of high tackles last week against a couple of the boys?
Yeah, they've been pretty upset. Most of the papers all week have been sort of doing it. And I think there's probably a few questions to be asked because there's been roughly 161 games played this year and there's only been 7 guys.
roughly 161.
Make that exactly 161 games and there's been exactly 7 guys sent off, but there's been 48 guys reported and been suspended. So the judiciary is kind of vindicating the fact that they could have sent off 48 guys. So I think that basically the video referees and the the send-off thing's got to be looked at. And to tell you the truth, they're pretty angry up at Newcastle.
That's good, mate. That was 53 seconds worth of gibber there from Paul Harragon. All right.
Roughly 53.
Roughly 53. And talking of high tackles, the man who was the recipient of a couple last week, he still played a great game and he's been playing wonderful football for the Newcastle Knights. He's up there in Newcastle. Adam MacDougall. G'day, Adam.
Hey, guys.
Well, Adam, how's your week been and how'd you pull up after a couple of dusty tackles last week?
Oh, it's been a pretty tough week, I suppose, but I can't really remember much of last week's game. Probably the way that the game sums up for me last week is at half-time when I spoke to Tony Butterfield. And coming in at half-time and Butsy was there in his suit eating a meat pie and I asked him why he didn't have his footy boots on. So that basically summed up my state of mind last week and I can't really remember any of the game, but I must admit I feel a little bit sorry for Jason Smith given the fact that he might not get on the field again this year for Parramatta.
No anger at all after having had a look at it on video, Adam?
Mate, I try not to look at it too much because, it's not something that you want to go out the next week remembering that, you copped a couple of high ones because it might make you a little bit gun-shy, but no, not really. As I said, it's part of the game and I wouldn't like to be tackling myself anyway, so I must admit I probably wouldn't like to be in the situation of having to tackle me with a fair run-up either.
Despite the controversy out of that game, Adam, is it fair to say that Newcastle are a fair way below par? I thought it was a fairly poor performance against Parramatta Friday.
Yeah, the team was very disappointed, Sterlo. It's probably one of the worst performances I've put in a number of weekends. We're really going to have to be on our game tomorrow night against Cronulla, otherwise we'll come away with another loss and that could really put our season in jeopardy coming into the last few weeks of the competition.
Dukes, let's move on to Cronulla. Last time we played them, they gave us a bit of a touch-up. I think Rogers scored about 4,000 tries and broke a couple of records. Now, personally, you got him back a little bit, I suppose, in the state of Rogan. Had a great series, but the World Cup at the end of the season, personally, a big clash for you on Friday night.
Oh yeah, I suppose personally it's a big challenge for me, but in saying that, I'm playing fullback this week and I don't think I'll confront Matt Rogers that much and given the fact on the wing, even when you come up against one another, you don't really get an opportunity to play against the other guy. It's based upon your own performance and Matt Rogers is a fine player and it's going to come down to who plays well for the rest of the season. I'm sure the selectors know who they already want in the team and it's beyond every individual's reach to know who's going to make it and who's not.
Adam, Stephen Price, mate. With Robbie O'Davis obviously coming back this week, or last week through reserve grade and also Darren Albert, you might have to move from fullback. You've said that you've enjoyed it over the last few weeks. Where you think could change your game a bit or?
Oh yeah, definitely. I suppose it's been a good experience for me to move back to fullback. I was initially graded as a centre and fullback and I got accidentally thrown onto the wing given the fact that Matt Gidley come up through the juniors and they gave him a try run in the centres and I scored 3 tries on the wing in a game and I've never moved there from that time onwards. So it's just been a good experience for me to get back on the position where I was initially graded and it's given me more opportunities. I've really enjoyed it.
Dukesy, the contract time, obviously the last probably 4 or 5 weeks has been pretty tough. Are you close to making a decision?
And what are you doing too, Dukes? Just an exclusive tonight for us, mate.
Mate, I'm probably closer than I have been in the last few weeks. Obviously, rugby union was very attractive to me.
Did you give that much thought seriously? Did you really think about the union?
Oh yeah, it's obviously something I haven't dismissed totally at the moment, but I suppose in realistic terms I have, given the fact that I know if I go to rugby union and if I do go over to England, I won't be considered for the World Cup. Given the year that I've had and the amount of work I've put in towards that goal, it's something I've dreamed of doing, and I know that'll be lost if I go over to rugby union or I go to England. So
that's a little something. What's going?
But I got a call back tonight from the United States, and 5 of the gridiron teams have expressed the fact that they would allow me not have to go over there and trial, and they'd take me on the proviso that I come over at the end of July. So that's something I'll also have to consider, because it's worth probably $1 million US if I can crack it over there. But realistically, I think I'm going to stay with league, mate. That's where my heart lies, and hopefully I can stay where my heart lies with rugby league, and that's Newcastle.
That's a clap. That's a clap.
That's well done. Well done, Adam. And I think if you're a betting man and you're putting money on where you think Adam MacDougall will play next year, I reckon you'd have to say the Knights. And now, Adam, these boots, they're a brand new boot bought out by Nike. I believe you're playing in them tomorrow night, you and the 2 Johns boys.
Yeah, mate. It's a tremendous honour, actually, to be given the respect of Nike that rugby league has got in this country. Ronaldo actually launched the boots worldwide for Nike, and now they've given myself and the Johns brothers the opportunity to launch this new boot, not book. And we're really looking forward to the opportunity tomorrow night. And they're meant to make you run a bit quicker and make you step a bit better, but the Johns brothers don't need any help there. I'm the one who needs a bit of help, but yeah, it's going to be a tremendous night tomorrow night, and we're going to auction a pair of these boots on eBay. And the proceeds from these are going to go to a charity, and they're going to be signed by myself and the Johns brothers.
That's right. Great gear, the Nike. Always good gear, the Nike gear. And
what's your address, mate?
These are great boots, and I wish I had a play. How fast could I have been in these, honestly? I could have been anything in these. But the boys, now they will be auctioning them next week on the Footy Show. And by the way, speaking of the Johns boys, both Matthew and Andrew will be co-hosts next week, where these 2 are sitting. So that's pretty exciting, something to look forward to. But Adam, thanks for joining us tonight. Play well tomorrow night in these if you can, and we'll see you up there tomorrow night. Adam MacDougall there, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks, mate. And that's the game you'll see. The Newcastle Knights take on the Sharks. It'll be an absolutely fantastic match there, and that's who everyone's picking. Newcastle.
When the Sharks should win fairly comfortably. They're, 8th position at the moment, the Sharkies. So.
But as you say, Pete, the Knights would have to improve on last week's performance.
Yeah, I thought all the controversy sort of overrode the fact that they didn't play well.
A blow for Newcastle, with a calf injury ruling Matthew Johns out of Friday night football against the Sharks. Better news for captain Tony Butterfield, who returns from injury and says expect a few surprises.
Oh, we've got a few secret moves.
The Sharks thumped Newcastle earlier this season, but have been inconsistent recently. Matt Rogers and co well aware of the job ahead.
We're 2 points out of second and 2 points out of 10th, so it's very important sort of next few weeks for us.
Coverage on 9 from 8:30.
To NRL now, and with the Sharks on the edge of the top 8, tonight's match, as with their next 2, was just about sudden death. But a trip to Newcastle to face the Knights is not a game any side wants if it's in need of 2 points.
A full house at Marathon Stadium meant thousands had to be turned away. Those Knights fans who made it in the gate not disappointed, as the home side dominated early possession. Although MacDougall failed to finish off this chance.
No! Rogers was there in time to run it dead.
But opportunity came knocking soon after, and Tahu was there for the intercept as the Knights skipped away to a 10-0 lead.
Goes in to get Newcastle's first try of the night.
Got the big baseball mid-out and then just put it over the top.
The Sharks were making some fundamental errors, and a real blow when halfback Blaine Stanley was carried off with an ankle injury. A Matt Rogers penalty goal made a small dent in the Knights' lead, but just seconds before half-time, some individual brilliance saw Tahu bag his second.
A kick, a chase, a regather. Here's try number 2. What a try! What a try! What a game!
After the break, more for the locals to cheer about as Andrew Johns found a gap.
And Andrew Johns is over. Andrew is in.
The Sharks responding, a short ball from Pt2 doing the trick. A 4-pointer to Rogers then put them right back in the hunt.
They're going to get it, they're going to get it, they get it!
Rogers followed that with a big hit on Beckett, who coughed up the ball for Dykes to pounce. They were now within 4, but that's as close as they got, time proving their worst enemy. The Knights surviving a battle of nerves in the closing stages to win.
20-16 the final score in favour of Newcastle, but celebrations were dimmed by the News fullback Robbo Davis, who is making a return in First Division, re-injured his foot and is out for the rest of the season. Sharks coach John Lang also finding little to smile about after the game.
I thought there was 2 clear incorrect decisions that cost us 8 points. One was the Jason Stevens raking the ball under the post, and one was the decision on Peach. You know, to my mind, it was a clear penalty. I really thought the penalty, you know, we should have got a penalty when Peach lost that ball. The bloke was all over him like a rash, you know. It went on for about 3 or 4 seconds.
Do you think the referee did enough to stay out of the spotlight tonight?
Oh, don't drag me into him. Don't drag me into him.
The Newcastle Knights could have breathed easy today after beating the Sharks and securing their place in the playoffs. For some, breathing wasn't easy at all.
After beating the Sharks on the field last night, the water held few fears for the Newcastle Knights today as they got ready for a scuba dive at Nelson Bay. The water feeling a bit warmer than usual after they guaranteed themselves a spot in the playoffs in front of a full house at Marathon Stadium.
We were lucky enough to get away with a win against the Sharks last night, and hopefully we can keep that record up and not get chased by too many today.
Riddled with mistakes from both sides, the game was hardly a showpiece, but one shining light for the Knights was young Tamana Tahu, who scored 2 tries in a man-of-the-match performance.
Goes in to get Newcastle's first try of the night.
Tahu got the big baseball mid-out and then just put it over the top.
Just really showed the confidence and the amount he's improved through the year and had a great game and won the game for us, really.
But as the Knights celebrated the win, there was also bad news. Star fullback Robbo Davis out for the rest of the season after re-injuring his foot in the earlier First Division game.
It's a huge loss for us personally. I know as a team I'd love Robbie back there at fullback, but you know, we just have to move ahead now, and our best wishes go out to Robbie.
The Sharks will now tread a playoff tightrope. Coach John Lang unhappy with last night's refereeing.
I thought there was 2 clear incorrect decisions that cost us 8 points.
Well, Newcastle had I'd say a struggling win on Friday night against the Sharks, and their coach joined us right now, Warren Ryan. G'day, Warren.
Hello, how are you?
You're going all right. Was it a struggling win? What did you make of it?
It wasn't a class win. Our attack wasn't as fluent and as we'd like to be, but one of the pluses that came out of it for me, and I think for all the players, was that I think we defended our errors pretty well, and that's something that perhaps we haven't done, you know, very well on a number of occasions, and I just feel that that's an area that we're steadily improving in. We're working very hard on our defence, and obviously the fewer errors you make, the less of it you have to do, and that's part of it too. But, you know, I always try and point out to them that you can't just compartmentalise attack and defence and say they're not related. They're 2 separate sections. The fewer errors you make, the less defence you have to do. So attack's very related to defence too.
Being the kind of coach that we know you are over so many years, Warren, is it sometimes difficult for you watching the Newcastle side, I guess, close out matches because they play such an exuberant style of football? They don't go into their shell too much. That's also the secret to the success, but it can lead to some problems, as we've seen in matches this year.
Yeah, well, I more or less have come to accept the style they play, and you know, you can't have your cake and eat it too, if I can describe it that way. You can't bask in the reflected glory of brilliant attack that's just so entertaining and so acceptable to the crowd that watch it, and then
say, stop, we've done enough.
Yeah, and then bemoan the fact that they make an error or two. You've just got to get good at defending your errors when you make them.
Warren, what price of premiership though? I mean, the type of football they play probably won't allow them to go through a final series undefeated 4 weeks in a row, because a good side will punish them. So at what point do you say, look, there's a premiership up for grabs here, we have to nut it out and get a job done?
Yeah, well, I think it's something we've got to get that fine-tuned between Andrew Johns and the forwards. That the forwards at points in the game have got to really take the game by the scruff of the throat, and for all the world play a bit of old rule football and churn out a set and get to Joey's kick and really put the lid on it if you hit the front. You know, you've got an acceptable lead. You've got to learn how to cruise through a game and tick the clock successfully.
Will they be capable of doing that on the day if they haven't practiced it prior to the day?
Well, that's another thing, Gus, that I'd sort of gone over with them. I said prior to the game the other night, I said, to play in a grand final with the field so bunched, vying to compete against the Broncos, presumably. You're going to have to produce a couple of grand final performances to be worthy and to earn the right to do it. And in the defensive side of things, I thought the other night was a step in the right direction. Not so they were in attack.
Warren, you've been in the game for a long time. Have you ever seen the competition so close?
No, but it's been designed to do that. I think the greatest year of parity prior to this was '92, from memory, where there were a lot of sides all bunched up around the middle, you know, around the half points margin. 26 is the half points margin for this one. It's a 26 round comp, of course, and if you won every game, you're on 52. Well, half the points is 26, and we've got a real traffic jam, haven't we, around that area now with 2 games to go. No, I haven't. This is the tightest bunch comp, you know, except for the Broncos at one end and perhaps the North Queensland Cowboys and Auckland Warriors down the other end. Perhaps they haven't taken as much a chunk out of the points as maybe they should have. Yeah. Because theoretically, the 8th team in should be below the 26-point line when you let more than half in, if you know what I mean, mathematically.
With not that many games left in your coaching career, we understand, Warren, how do you feel within yourself, especially what's been a pretty tough year up there with events off the field as much as on for the Knights? Yeah, well, I feel that myself personally about the game. I'm quite happy, you know, to finish this year. I don't want to coach anymore. In fact, Auckland rang me and I referred them to another coach. I said, try him. I think he'd be a good man for you.
The bloke sitting next to you, wasn't it?
No. And Gus has probably got aspirations closer to home.
Mate, just back onto this competition, it used to be, as a guideline, if you conceded more than 400 points in a season, you couldn't possibly make the playoffs. Now, already we've got 5 of our top 8 sides conceding close to 500. Our 9th and 10th place sides well over 500. It'll when the final 8 is completed, I reckon half a dozen sides will have conceded more than 500 points in a season and still made the playoffs.
Yeah, well, you know, the possibility of a side getting in with fewer wins than, or greater number of losses than wins also rankles a lot of the purists that like to see the semi-final appearances a reward for excellence during the year. And really, numerically, 5 out of 14 is the right number. It should be a 5-team. But I can see why they did that. You know, with the State of Origin, with the Olympics and a packed year, no time off for State of Origin, there'd be a great case for bleating if a side missed the playoffs if it was a 5-team system because they lost 3 matches while they provided a lot of players to State of Origin. They'd really have a beef over that, wouldn't they? So, you know, I can see why they had an 8-team system, apart from monetary considerations, etc.
Another factor in the top 8 situation, the playoffs, are going to be the referees, touch judges, a lot of control. Well, I know you could probably be here for 2 hours talking about this, but just quickly, especially considering the incidents last Friday night, how do you see the situation?
Well, it's worrying in the sense that, and I know Wayne Bennett expressed even concern not just about the referees on the field and the linesmen on the field, but the actual video ref getting it right in a big game. Can you imagine a grand final, you know, being won or lost? Well, we had a case last year where a forward pass was allowed, didn't we, in the grand final?
Do you believe, as I do, Warren, that in a situation where we've got Jason Smith being placed on report here, he should have at least had 10 minutes in the bin?
I think, and I'm just speaking before we came on with Gus about it, yeah, I do. I think that when a man's booked for a high charge and put on report and penalised, he should go straight away to the bin for 10 minutes anyway, so that they have suffered a significant penalty for their indiscretion. I mean, the real sufferers here are not Parramatta. We got a penalty, but I mean, we were the sufferers because our players were rendered less effective than them.
You were very critical of this one during the week on radio, saying that the video referee got it totally wrong, trying to give his knowledge of an obscure rule.
Yeah, well, I did feel that. Actually, when I saw it happen, I said, you know, this bloke in the video room will be tempted to demonstrate his knowledge of a very obscure rule, which means when 2 players touch down simultaneously, and I don't believe they did anyway, it's a try. The attacking side get the advantage on a simultaneous touchdown.
I think the rule's wrong and the interpretation's wrong. There has to be some semblance of control or possession when you score a try.
Well, you know, if MacDougall didn't earn the right there to say, you know,
he's got the ball.
He's got the ball, yeah. He should have earned the right there, I think. But, you know, the rule says simultaneous. But was it a simultaneous touchdown? That's the point.
Too hard to tell that one. Well, time's just about up. But Newcastle heading into the semis, what percentage do you reckon they are of, say, 100% for grand final day? If you got to that far, how do you think they are right now?
In terms of what they're capable of?
Yeah.
I think we're only about 75%.
Yeah, so a lot of room for improvement.
Oh, we can be a lot better than what we are here, and I think everybody knows it. We've got Ben Kennedy still on the wings.
Do you think you'll get him to 100% of what you would like?
Oh, that's impossible, isn't it?
No coach can do that.
Are you going to try?
You never have. I'm just trying to moderately get him there with the help of Michael Hay. I must say, Michael's been terrific. I say to him, Michael, we've got to teach him to do this, that, and he invents these drills, which has been very, very beneficial, and there'll be a very smooth transition to Michael next year. All right. And I think we'll get him up to close to it, Gus.
They can
win. You want to put some money on?
They can win a comp if they listen.
Well,
you just got to
bring him and tell them. Yeah. Bring him and tell them.
Right. Warren Ryan there, one of the greatest coaches in the modern era. He's just joined us for a lovely chat there on the Sunday Footy Show. I see the heads turn. They look at me.
That was lovely.
We'll take a break and come back with more.
It's lovely chat.
Lovely chat. The Footy Show's on in about 10 minutes, and guess who's on? These blokes.
Very good. E.T.'s on, Brett Lee's on. World's best player and the bloke who's going to England. That's it.
Yeah. Tonight on The Footy Show, we prove that we're the ultimate in family viewing. When the brothers Johns, Andrew and Matthew join us as our guest hosts.
Hey there, thanks for joining us tonight. How are you? It's good? You ready for the, ready for the semis? Because the semis are just around the corner. But the big question, Peter Sterling, is who can beat the Broncos? Can anyone beat the Bronx?
They can be beaten, Paul. Yeah. I'm sure there are a couple of sides there. New competition when we get to the quarterfinals, and Brisbane are a long way from being past the post.
I reckon that there's two teams that can do it on their best day, and Brisbane would have to have an off day, I mind you. That I think the Melbourne Storm might have the forwards to do it, and also the Newcastle Knights. Of course, one of the great sides, the Newcastle Knights, and a couple of their stars are going to join us right now as guest hosts for the night. Please make welcome Matthew Johns. Welcome, Matty. Now, Matty's the older brother, also got his younger brother. Please make him welcome Andrew Johns. Two of the greatest players in the world today, and you are the greatest player in the world today. You know that, Andrew, don't you?
Oh, thanks,
When
Paddy.
Brad Fittler's not playing, of course.
Very nice to say that.
Welcome, boys. How you going? Good week for you?
Yeah, good week. Always a good week after a win. Myself personally, I will play this week. Finally getting over
We didn't ask you that. We just want to know if you'd had a good week.
Yeah, not a bad week. Actually, pretty.
But you'll
good
play
week.
this week?
Yeah, I will play this week.
Okay.
First grade said there's a rumour you're coming back through second grade. First
well, there
division.
was a thing, and actually the producers, Glennie Palace, to ring up to see if I was all right. And when I was on there was a story running I was going to come through first division. I nearly fainted.
It's a wonder what money can do. Yeah. Paid off Warren.
Joey, congratulations in all seriousness. Rugby League week. Interesting reading this week. You are acknowledged amongst your peers as the best player in the competition and a landslide result. That's got to make you feel good.
Yeah, it's nice to get awards and win Dally M's Player of the Year and that, but when you get voted by your peers to be the best player, it means something, and I was sort of pretty shocked when I read it, actually.
Well, you shouldn't be. I mean, you're just an absolute champion as far as we're all concerned. We love watching you play, don't we, ladies and gentlemen? We love to watch you play, but my little mate who before you came along was the best halfback I ever saw. The last couple of weeks, he in particular being a halfback, has noted in your game he thinks you're overplaying things a bit the last fortnight.
Yeah, actually, I had a chat to Michael Hagan, and especially after the Roosters game, it's probably the best game I've played in quite a while, probably the best game I've played in grade. And over the last 2 weeks against Parramatta and also the Sharks, I've just tried to play my hand a little bit instead of being patient. So, I've something I've got to think about. And instead of going out and try to make every player win, I'll just sit back and be patient.
Yeah. Only 2 weeks away from the quarterfinals. You guys are a big chance of a top 4 finish, which would give you a home quarterfinal. Where are the Knights at the moment with the way things are going?
Yeah, we think we're going reasonably well, actually. I think we're on fire against the Roosters. Things sort of really clicked for us. In the last 2 weeks, there's been talk that we have probably been a little bit below our best, particularly the Parramatta game, but I suppose that's part and parcel of this year's competition. Everybody's been a little bit below their best and inconsistent at times. We like to think we're going to come into our best football now this time of the year.
He's been good, hasn't he? Tamana Tahu, he's been a real find. Ever since he came into this year especially, outstanding out there. He's just got better with every game.
He's actually only been playing football for 2 or 3 years. Yeah. He was a basketball before that, and if you see him slam dunk that ball, you can see that. But, he's still only 18, 19, and when he eventually finishes growing, he's going to be a massive kid, and, it's good to see him stay with the Knights for another year.
What about Ben Kennedy, State of Origin back rower? Hasn't been around for a couple of weeks. Can we expect him back shortly?
Well, we believe he's going to come back through First Division this week. He needs a little bit of football under his belt, he believes. He's very close to 100% fit, and he come forward to Warren and said, look, I want to play First Division. I want to get a little bit of football under my belt before the semi-finals, and, that's a real bonus for us, Sterlo.
Have you missed the Chief at all this year?
No.
Of course, mate. Yeah, I mean, look, any person with the impact that Chief has on a football game and his inspiration he brings, you always miss. We have missed him, yeah.
Yeah, we'll just wait. He won't be missed out there when Shane Lee rolls a couple down at him later on.
Oh, yeah.
Now, we had a fantastic weekend of footy once again, and we just had a look through and picked out some of the highlights. You mentioned Tamana Tahu, 16 tries this year, I think third on the NRL list. And he's a very talented young player, very confident, scored 2 tries on Friday night and just finished up with the slam dunk over the crossbar, which I don't think too many players in the NRL would be able to do that. So he is a very athletic young player, Tamana Tahu.
Put a set on him and go 100 metres and put a great kick on and, trap them down their own line. Then, they bring big monsters on like Wendell and he goes forward, then Lottie goes forward, and then it just, gets them going forward. And then, you got to take the likes of Brad Thorne when you're on the back foot. And, these blokes are just massive, and for 80 minutes it's too hard to control.
Are you blokes, your brothers, I mean, do you mix socially? Do you much?
Yeah.
Yeah, we do.
You got hobbies? When you were growing up, did you have hobbies?
I used to play all sorts of sports: cricket, badminton, shuttlecock.
Model trains, stuff like that. Dress-ups?
Matty used to love the dress-up.
Matty used to like the dress-ups, did he?
Of course. Oh, yeah, of course.
Mum's clothes.
Excellent stuff. Well, look, time now to introduce our next guest. He's king of the bush jockeys, Allan Robinson. What's doing, Robbo?
No, not a lot, Fat. Had a pretty quiet week. Nah, got the hair done. I shampooed it this week.
Yeah, that's his bright and shiny. Looks right. Good. Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, even with your limited intelligence, you can see that these...
Where are you from, Cessnock? Are you from Cessnock?
Are you bagging Cessnock people?
Yeah, I've been up there all week. Called around to Matthew and Andrew's mum and dad's place. Very good people. And I opened a can of worms when I just asked about a few things about Matt. We'll throw to it and have a look. What do you think about the boys going to be hosts on the footy show together?
Very exciting, Robbo.
You'll be watching it?
My word, we watch it every week.
Gayle?
Yes, definitely. I'll tape it.
Think you'll get a laugh out of it?
I'm sure we will.
What were the boys like growing up?
Oh, they were a handful. Always wrestling and breaking things, windows, vases.
Many fights?
Oh, lots of fights, yeah, over silly things.
Girls?
No, not girls.
They're not gay, are they?
I hope not.
Who are the hairiest bum?
And Matt was a mad nose picker?
No, Andrew was the nose picker.
Andrew? Did they annoy the neighbours?
We bought them slug guns one year and there wasn't a budgie alive in the neighbourhood. They shot every sparrow that lobbed on the fence. So they only had them a week and I had to hide them, and then I eventually sold them to get them out the place.
And they used to break the plants. The old lady next door had a nice tree fern and they used to kick the ball over all the time and break the plants. And she said to me one day, I don't want to get Andrew into trouble, Gayle, but he's been having kids in the backyard laying on the ground when you aren't here and he's jumping them on his BMX.
Gayle, Matthew growing up, what did you think had become of him? What avenue could you see him strolling down?
Oh, I think Matthew could have been a comedian or a...
Transvestite.
Transvestite, he likes dressing up.
He did like dressing up, Robbo, yeah. We often caught him in other people's clothes, women or...
Other people's nana's clothes.
That's right, nana's clothes.
One night...
Mum's swimmers.
One night we were in bed and I woke up with a terrible fright. This thing was hanging over the top of me in a trampoline slut suit with a big border around the neck and safety glasses. And Matt said, don't be frightened, it's just me, I'm in Mina Forbes' outfit.
And what about Andrew, Gary? Him growing up, did you think you'd see him out the front of the tab with a brown paper bag?
Well,
Has
mate,
he surprised you?
No, he hasn't surprised me one bit, mate. He's been like that ever since he was a little bloke. I don't think he ever missed a dog meeting when he was going to school.
What about the grand final, Gaz? Good memories?
Oh, great day, Robbo, that was a great day, yeah. Actually, when Darren Albert put the ball down, I'd never seen him score the try, but Chief's dad grabbed me in the headlock and kissed me on the lips, I think.
Gayle, where'd you go?
Well, when I saw the gap open and Darren Albert going through it, I took off down to the fence to make sure I got a spot on the fence.
I see you've got a few photos around the house of that grand final. What's the one that sticks out, Gaz?
Probably after the game, before Andrew kicked the last goal, Matthew raced down and they hugged and cuddled each other, and that was a pretty emotional day for me. I completely lost it then. Harold and I, we sort of had a bit of a cry in the back of the grandstand. I'll never forget it, Robbo. It was one of the greatest days in my life, I reckon.
Wasn't the only house I went to in Cessnock. I went down the street and caught up with a few of the people who had a bit to play in their lives, these two, transvestite nose pickers. We'll have a look at a few of the Johns brothers' friends.
Yes, Robbo, yes, I do remember those two little Johns boys, bowl haircuts, shirts tucked right in. Yes, they were real nice little boys. Let's have a look at their report cards. Oh, no. They were real little terrors.
Oh, there was a tribe of them. They're not getting their ball back. They killed me budgies too. They used to knock me fence over. Those Johns boys, they're great blokes. I'd be out of business years ago, except for them. Andrew, he likes a bet. He's always in here. Robbo, why don't he back you? He should. At least he'd have a collect. We were mates. We were teammates. We were real good mates. Yeah. They can score 50 tries, kick goals from the sideline. So could I, mate. Firstly, I show them at the real game, the round-the-ball game. And what do? They go away and I play that at rugby league. And then they stop buying my healthy hamburgers, my greasy chips. Oh, wait till I catch up with those Johns boys. Wait till I catch up with them.
Well done. I mean, Robbo, you get one part in a movie and now you think you're Tom Cruise. I mean, honestly.
That with a head like that, I wouldn't be saying too much.
No, I know that, Robbo. I've got nothing.
Tom Thumb.
But you boys are very nice of Mum and Dad. There's a nice carve-up, but some nice things said as well. You must be quite proud of them.
Oh, some lovely photos there. I'm just glad they didn't bring the bad ones out, the ones I've hidden. There's some rippers there.
Yeah, Gayle and Gary must be quite proud of their two sons, both champion blokes as well as great players. Robbo, thanks very much, mate, for your time tonight.
No worries, mate.
All right, good week last week.
Yeah, right a couple. Yeah.
Good on you.
You know, you ring me every morning, you and Zorb.
I do ring you every morning. You can't help me at all.
Do you remember, fellas, the old open days used to have at every club where whoever wanted to run would just turn up pretty much, you know, and Newcastle Knights used to hold those sort of days. I remember in 1994 going along to at the Newcastle Knights Open Day, and this fella was playing, and mate, he must have scored 15 tries on the day, and it was Nathan. And mate, they had him earmarked, him and Owen Craig at the time for great talent, so offered him a contract, and at the time you said you weren't interested because you wanted to be a basketball player. So, you know.
Yeah, I played a bit of basketball, but I think the main thing was I just want to finish my education, year 12, and so...
Mate, you could have finished your education with me and Joey.
Different kind of education.
Probably end up in jail if you did.
One thing you would know is 40 on at 6 to 4. And
gets you 100 back.
Exactly right.
You blokes also get involved in a bit of the, heading out to the bush and helping the kids. I mean, they really need it out there, don't they?
Yeah, we're probably lucky in Newcastle. Newcastle area is pretty strong, actually, with in the country areas. But, yeah, we both used to work as development officers and used to get out there and you know, that's where the grassroots is. We've got to get out there.
Can I just quickly say, and I know the NRL, it might cost them a lot of money, but I think to do something for country rugby league and kids, every kid in New South Wales or Queensland, whatever, they should have their registration fee paid.
Paid for, yeah.
They should get a pair of boots, jersey, socks, shorts at the beginning of the year and say, we want you to come and play our game.
Exactly. Good way to attract kids.
Is the fact that there's so many other sports getting on television with cable now. You've got the soccer, which has got enormous, so they need to do it.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Look, you blokes are going to hang around because after the break we've got a cricket challenge involving Paul Harragon. We'll come back after the break with us because out in the car park, the Lee brothers bowling to Paul the Chief Harragon, raising money for charity. Six balls to bowl. Now, Shane Lee's going to bowl because Brett's got a crook foot, as a matter of fact, not his elbow. His foot's a bit crook, so Shane's going to bowl. He's still pretty quick. And you've got the commentary set up here with Andrew and Matty. Snorky's here as well. And the batsman, of course, is Paul the Chief Harragon. Chief, how are you feeling there, champion?
Not too bad, thanks.
Now, tell us a bit about your cricketing history.
Under 11s, state play, opening bowler. Wasn't much of a batsman. And also under 12s there for Lakes United. Just want to point out one fact that Shane had one practice bowl, and there it is there. So that's great. I'm ready. The Astro Turf 2 is looking
now,
good.
Now, we've got an umpire down there as well. Little Robbo's umpiring. Good on you, Robbo.
I'll be making sure there's no chucking fat.
Now, before we start, there's $1,000 a ball here, courtesy of eBay, thanks to eBay for the money put up tonight. And of course, it goes to Brett and Shane's suicide prevention charity, the New Day Foundation. So $1,000 per ball. Let her rip, Shane, as fast as you like.
Hang on. Leprechauns are good luck, Robbo, so just give me a little bit, okay?
Thanks, mate.
Watch his action, Matty.
Come on, here we go.
Okay, definitely a chucker if you ask me. Oh my Lord!
Is that $1,000? That's all right.
That's 1,000.
Thanks very little.
1,000. Chief, now you handled that one pretty well.
Stuff.
Let's have a replay of that because Chief, I thought he handled that pretty well.
Very good.
Oh.
Yeah, there you go. That was an excellent replay.
You knew it was high.
He's very quick, Shane. Very quick.
On the front foot, Chief.
Okay.
Front foot, mate.
Come on.
Ball 2.
That's been
In we go. Oh! Nearly got him in the scone.
Don't take that, Chief.
Chief.
Mate, is there any chance you...
Chief.
You're supposed to... No, fudging. You're supposed to look after me.
I tell you what, Chief's been a good
Here
pat.
it is. Here's the replay. Look at the Chief.
Oh, I think it did hit him with the helmet.
Lucky I haven't got two heads.
Would you say he's got a definite weakness outside off stump, mate?
Is there any chance of getting one with the bat, Chief?
Give me a chance.
I haven't seen a
Right,
bloke.
that's 2,000.
I haven't seen a bloke this good with the bat since Rodney Hogg was out there.
Ball 3 from Shane Lee.
Couldn't hog bat.
Oh, yeah.
How am I going?
Yes, very good, Chief. No, geez, you must have been...
Chief, I think you've got to play him off the front foot, mate. You've got to get to the pitch of the ball.
Robbo, mate, give us a fair ball. No fudging.
Chief.
Look at this.
Middle
You
of
might
the
as well have
wicket.
a skirt
I
on the
haven't
way
seen
you're playing.
speed like that since Lenny
You
Pascal.
are kidding.
Shane, try and bowl me, mate.
Front foot, Chief.
Come on, Chief.
Come down the
Over
crease.
his head, Chief.
Oh, yes. Lovely.
Lovely French cut.
Well done, mate. Actually got some bat on that one.
Wow.
I'll tell you what, there's a big brown stain on the back of Chief's pants, let me tell you. Oh, brilliant French cut.
Nice catch, Robbo.
Big brown stain. It ain't Vegemite. Right, that's 4,000 raised. Let's go for 5,000.
The Lee brothers are planning
Over
something.
this time, mate.
I heard him say boom ball.
What's the reverse swing, Chief?
Oh, Lord. He's just smashed something.
Unbelievable.
This is tragic. That's just gone straight through. It's just absolutely gone straight through. We've got to go to a replay on that.
Come on, Shane, have a go, mate. Bowl quicker, will you?
It's a lovely pitch.
How am I going? I was actually going to stand behind.
I think they just ruined the camera.
I tell you what, there was...
two kids, Chief.
That's 5 balls, 1 to go.
Luke and Emily, I will be going to okay?
Lifting the head,
Aren't you,
something
Chief?
Come on, Shane, come on.
Down at him.
Come on, Chief.
Yes!
Murray's gone. Okay, let's have a replay on that.
Hold on, mate.
Chief, come on.
Well done, Chief. Come in, Brett.
Thanks, Sarah.
Yeah, well, there you go. We had to find that. He goes all right, doesn't he?
Yeah.
And, mate, you're quicker than that.
Well, I'm not
By
sure
about
about that.
50 Ks.
That looked very quick.
You're sitting down good.
I'm always bowling into the wind, but...
Yeah, that's right. The in-swingers, the out-swingers. Now, of course, $6,000 raised courtesy of eBay for the Shane Suicide Prevention Charity New Day Foundation. So, how you going, big
What
fella?
about my nerves? Mate, the heart rate, it's just...
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm gone.
All right, mate, I just got a message here from Brett Lee, like... just that to happen as well. Good on you, Robbo. Good on you, champ. We'll take a break and come back with more of the Footy Show. The whole show, the success of this Footy Show tonight depends on this next bit with Andrew and Matty doing League of Their Own. Boys, take it away.
Okay, 3 contestants. First one, under 15s, Warren versus Terrigal. This is a superb falcon. Okay. It's just knocked every tooth out in his head, let me tell you. You shouldn't laugh at that. Let's have a replay of that one. Bang, smash cheekbone. Bang. Down he goes. Okay, let's, number 2, Joey. What do you got for us, mate?
Yeah, number 2, this young fella scores a try, Paul Turner from Welby in New South Wales. His mate comes in, number 3, Ryan Gurgler, does the referee, and that's not enough. He says, Russell Bowden, here I am. I hope it's a can of Coke, not a beer, but he swishes it, claims it, throws her over.
Okay, we got number 3 here. Nothing wrong with that. A few of the boys having a whiz. I've been arrested for it myself. We've got a little fella here that looks very similar to Fatty. He's checking the other fellas out. And what's the size of yours, boys? And what are they up to here?
What he's saying is, I've got yours covered because I'm a redhead. That's what he's saying.
Okay, and you can, here we go.
Yeah, no, this is good.
You can send your entries in a stamped, self-addressed post pack to League of Their Own, Lock Bag 15, Willoughby, New South Wales 2068.
Prizes, mate. Thanks for the great entries.
You can do the prizes, Joey.
Thanks for the great entries. You guys have won a Holden pack featuring all the great gear. We're also going to the running to win the major prize from our good buddies at Holden. They're good too. I drive a Holden.
It's the sensational Holden Jackaroo 4-wheel drive. This 4-speed automatic has a powerful 3.5-litre V6 engine, comes fully equipped with dual airbags, power windows, air conditioning and alloy wheels. Valued at nearly $50,000, you get plenty of Jackaroo for your smackaroos from our good mates at Holden.
Okay, and as I said before, send your entries in a stamped, self-addressed post pack to League of Their Own, Lock Bag 15, Willoughby, New South Wales 2068.
Well done, mate.
Well done, boys. Good work, boys. Excellent. So it's just in the... That's how the show goes.
Paul, I appreciated a few weeks ago how you arranged on my 40th birthday the eel to come in. Well, tomorrow, ladies and gentlemen, Paul Vorton turns 41. We tried to get the Northern Eagle to come out here.
What did we get instead?
We did our best. Right. Happy birthday for
Thanks,
tomorrow.
41, thank you.
Happy everybody.
What a great cock.
What are you best? Thanks very much for that.
I gotta go. Well, thanks, Andrew. Thanks, Matty. We'll see you next week on the Footy Show.
The Footy Show is brought to you by Harragon.
Then today at Moore Park, which is here in Sydney, there's a touch football contest. Nike are running it. Teams from all over New South Wales are competing for a fantastic prize, courtesy of Nike. And Andrew Johns, one of their stars, he joins us right now, and also the great Newcastle player. G'day, Johnsy.
Morning, Joe.
Hey, Fatty, how you going?
Good, thanks, mate. Great job Thursday night too, hosting the show. Well done. Plenty of phone
thanks,
calls
mate.
about you.
All good, I hope.
What is happening out there today?
There's about 200 kids out here. There's a four-a-side touch football comp, and I think Nike's run it. And there's everything here. There's games in the background. There's pass the ball competitions. And if you win a shirt or a drink bottle. And there's bands like Groove Terminator and Romana Stones here. some of your favourite bands, Fatty. So you get down here, get the shirt off, get out the front of the mosh pit, everyone will love it.
Get the shirt off and get a whack.
No one else would fit in the mosh pit if he took the shirt off, Joe. Unusual to see, you know, something like this going on for yourself on the morning of a game. This isn't obviously going to interrupt any preparation for an enormous match for the Knights this afternoon.
Yeah, mate, my build-ups, I'm pretty relaxed right up till kick-off, so generally at home, even if I'm at home, I'll go for a surf the day of the game, so this won't affect me. Yeah, but on the game, it's going to be a big one. They're very desperate. We talked about that last night. It's just we've got to match them with enthusiasm and make sure that when at the end of the day, you know, we're as desperate in them because we really want that top 2 finish.
Andrew, it's very similar to Friday night's game, isn't it, when you consider Melbourne were odds-on favourites. Canberra really had the right attitude and won the game. The Tigers are very hard to beat at Campbelltown.
Yeah, that's right. Any team at home is hard to beat, and I think every week you see if teams turn up and think they're just got to turn up to win, they don't, you know, bring their attitude and their football boost to play, then they get beat. So we've talked about that. Warren spoke about it last night, and you know, you can generally get that feel in the camp that the boys are on. And you know, this morning we all had breakfast, and I think everyone's focused and ready to go.
Any discernible change in Warren Ryan as we get closer to the playoffs? It's your first year under him up there, and he has a tremendous record at this end of the season, or second, sorry. He has a tremendous record at this end of the season. Does he change at all as we get closer to these big matches?
No, not really. He's actually he's relaxed probably from last year to this year. He's really relaxed. He sort of knows that pretty much everyone prepares differently, and yeah, but I think he knows that it's a great opportunity, and I think he's just trying to get forward to all the boys that what a great opportunity we have this year, and it'd be a real waste if we didn't sort of win the premiership.
Andrew, Adam MacDougall was due to appear with you this morning. I guess after this morning's articles in the papers, we can understand why he's elected not to come on air. Are the team, Adam, disappointed in what was said this morning?
Nothing was really said. I think everyone hid the papers away from him at breakfast. I think the Tigers had hoped he wouldn't read it too also, but yeah, I don't really comment on that. Doogs actually, he's got a hip problem, so that's why he hasn't come. He's having some physio on his hip, but it is disappointing, and without going right into it, you know, it's probably press Doogs doesn't need and the side doesn't need.
Speaking of press, there was another report in the paper today that you and Wok had words on the phone during the week after Matty Johns. He was rung and threatened to be dropped to second grade. Did that happen?
No, not. I rung Warren. We didn't have words, and what he said was if Matt's not 100%, he'd bring you back to reserve grade. And I think what happened, but there was no way we had words.
All right, now fair enough. Now you're up against a pretty good number 7 today in Craig Field. He's been known to have a chat in the field, so you might be having a chat with him out there.
Yeah, I'd say so. It's always good playing his fields. He, you know, in a way, he's really like when you play Gary Freeman. He's always at you, and we sort of spoke about Fieldsy. He does everything. He does the organising, so we'll be trying to put him under as much pressure as possible. But, you know, his form of late's been great, so as I said, we'll have to watch him and try to put him under a lot of pressure.
Thanks, Andrew. Enjoy the trip out there to Campbelltown. A big match for you. The greatest player in the world today, Andrew Johns, joins us.
Thanks, Freddie, and you're doing nothing. Get down here in Moore Park. It's a great day, and I think it knocks off about 5 o'clock, so there's a lot of stuff to do out here, so get down with the family and we'll have a good day.
Thanks, Johnsy. Courtesy of Nike there appearing for us, Andrew Johns. He's a magnificent player, and he himself should draw 15,000, 20,000 out there to Campbelltown Stadium today. We'll take a break and come back, and plenty more happening on the Footy Show this afternoon, or this morning.
Ken Sutcliffe with Sport is next, and Adam MacDougall is staying with the Knights.
Jim, he signed up for another 4 years. That's coming up. League star Adam MacDougall has ended weeks of speculation by re-signing with Newcastle for another 4 years. His deal with the Knights is believed to be worth $1.2 million.
Less than a month ago, Adam MacDougall was a 100-to-1 chance of staying at Newcastle, but he put pen to paper this afternoon.
At the end of the day, my heart's always been here, and this is where I've always wanted to stay.
The Knights game breaker knocked back offers from Canberra, England and Rugby Union to play out his career at Newcastle. He says there's up to 30% improvement in his game.
Just living in Newcastle in itself, there's a lot of opportunities for me outside of football when I finish, so that's something I have to look forward to as well.
Newcastle winger Adam MacDougall has finally signed a 4-year deal with the club. Kylie.
Knights fans will be happy. Thank you, Paddy.
Sport now with Kylie Gillies and the end of an era for the Newcastle Knights, Kylie.
Ross, Tony Butterfield and Matthew Johns have their official farewells this weekend. We've got more on that next. Up Newcastle way, it's farewell time this weekend as club stalwarts Matthew Johns and Tony Butterfield play what could be their last home game, though both intend to do their celebrating on grand final day.
Their final walk out onto Marathon Stadium promises to be a special moment for two of the night's favourite sons. Wigan-bound Matthew Johns wasn't offered a contract by Newcastle.
I sort of got over it and I was looking to finish the season on the high, and then Sunday's going to come again. There's going to be a lot of motion again.
After 13 years here, adopted Novocastrian Tony Butterfield is retiring on his own terms, but the sole survivor from the Knights' debut in 1988.
Given it my best shot, I've busted just about every bone in the body, and and I've had a great time doing it.
Easily the highlight for both, the club's maiden grand final win 3 years ago. The fact the family will be no more on the field, starting to hit home for halfback Andrew Johns.
I can really see it sort of start to creep into me subconscious that, this is the last one, so I better get myself ready for a big one.
Defeating the Bulldogs on Sunday will earn Newcastle a home final. Naturally enough, the other Knights say the farewell won't be complete unless they can send both players away with another title in the bag.
I've had a dream for a long time since I was a kid to captain a first grade team to a premiership.
I think if we win the grand final, there'll probably be a few tears.
You watched the show last week?
Yes, I did.
What about the cake in the face?
Yeah, that was great.
Deserved it?
Well, very well deserved.
Do you think I could host the show?
For sure. You're a freak, right?
What about the cricket bat over the head?
No, that was really mean. I was...
Fell a lump. What do you
big.
think? Do you watch the Great Footy Show?
No, I don't watch it. I'm in bed by that.
Do you think I should host the show?
Nah.
Do you think Fat Man should stay there?
Fat is better.
Oh, good on ya.
Go on, get stuck into him, Robbo. The ultimate night, Tony Butterfield comes in on the eve of the last final series of his career.
Still to come on tonight's footy show, the last of the original Knights. Tony Butterfield joins us live to talk about the Knights' charge towards the final.
Robbo here in sunny Newcastle. Big game Sunday, sell-out crowd at Marathon Stadium. Last home game for one of the real warriors of the game, the tough, the durable Butsy. Let's head out into the streets of Newcastle and see what they think of this old bloke. Wait, what do you think about Tony Butterfield retiring?
Well, everything's got to come to a close, mate.
He went to school with you, didn't he?
Mate, I'm his grandfather.
Oh, yeah? What do you think of Tony Butterfield retiring?
Well, he'll be missed in the game. He was a very tough player, one of the toughest in the game. He can match with any forward in the game.
What do you think of Tony Butterfield retiring?
I haven't got any thoughts on it at all.
Do you think we'll miss him?
I don't know.
What do you think of the good Tony Butterfield retiring?
Oh, I think it's a good thing for him.
How are you, mate?
Good.
What do you think about Tony Butterfield retiring?
No, good.
What do you think the greatest part of his game is? His sidestep?
So, mate, he busts him up, mate. Takes the ball up there.
He busted it up.
Does he?
Bullet.
What do you think about him retiring?
He should be still going around. He's a good player.
What's one of the greatest things of his game? What do you think is the best part of it?
His passing game.
Do you think we can send him out a winner on Sunday?
Maybe.
He's a great lawn bowler.
Maybe. What's going on, Anne? He's 52.
You watch the footy show?
He's 52.
I think he's great, mate, don't you?
What's part of his game that you'll remember?
His toughness.
Come here. Stay with him, then. Have a look here. Oh, get up, Fatty.
Oh, no.
Fatty, spat the dummy out. Come on, little Fatty.
No.
Fat, little Fat. Come here, little Fat. What's one part of his game that you'll remember?
He's go forward all the time, mate. He never shirked it. Always into him.
Exactly. Do you think we can send him out a winner on Sunday, his big day?
My bloody oath we will.
Sunday, 2:30, Marathon Stadium. Get there however you can, but just be there. Big send-off for Butts and that other clown, M. Johns. He'll have all his family there. They're his only friends. And Fat, not like you, Butts is retiring on top.
Thanks, Robbo. Robbo at his best there at Newcastle. Well done, mate. Molesting small children and everything up there. Good on you, Robbo. Well, yes, he's going to join us right now. He's one of the great club men in the modern era. Please make him welcome Tony Butterfield. Yeah, one of the greats up there at Newcastle. And of course, I remember playing against you one day because you started at Penrith, didn't you?
Yeah, I started with this young fella down the end, Mark.
I remember a commentator, it was a hot day, and he said, Butterfield's left the field, he's melting.
Yeah.
That was a good line. Good on you, Jim. And how did you get to Newcastle?
I needed a bit of a change from Penrith. I was going through a few troubled times, a few bad habits that we tend to get out that way. But I had an offer to go to the very new club, Penrith, in '88, and I grabbed it with both hands and enjoying myself.
Pretty hard days, those early days, I'd imagine, up there with Newcastle.
Yeah, they were. We didn't have a big checkbook as some of the other newer teams did, but I recall our very first game actually was against the '87 Premiers, Manly. I think you were playing that day, actually, Fatty.
Yeah.
And we towed us up, which was a real big one for the Newcastle crowd.
Towed us up 14-48, you towed us up. Yeah, it was good.
Well, this is footage, obviously, from a long, long time ago, but we could be looking at footage from last week, really. No second thoughts about this retirement caper at all? This is the time?
No, not at all, mate. I've given all I can give to the game. I've got a young family and a career to sort of look after. So, hang on.
It was completely accidental there.
That was Tim's fault.
What about Newcastle this year? Like, I think plenty of people maybe wrote you off to some degree when you've had some turmoil up there in a lot of different areas. That seems to have all been resolved and things are back on an even keel.
Yeah, well, some things tend to get blown out of proportion. There were a few little teething problems we had up there, and a few players were a little upset over a few minor issues, I thought, at the time, but we realised, our job is to play football, and the boys have played reasonably well, and we represent an entire region, so to sit there and sulk and worry about minor issues, I think, is missing the point. So we've had our head down and backsides up and working quite well.
But on a personal note, I've known you, probably for 15 years as a friend and an opponent, and you're up there in my estimation with the Gillespies and the Davidsons as the toughest players I've played against. Who in your mind are the players who stick in your mind when you think of tough players?
Sorry, mate.
Sorry, Dennis. I've come from Mount Druitt.
Sorry, man. No, mate, Gillespie, Harragon, Sargent, yourself. You're always a tough bugger, and you're still a tough old bugger. So
old, yeah.
Young.
Certainly I'm old. Yeah. Get there.
Yeah, but it's normally injuries or that lack of desire, and you don't seem to be lacking either. I still can't come to terms with why you are retiring. I know you said you got family, young family and that.
Another one on the way too, Butts, I hear.
Another one on the way, yeah.
Good
Thanks, Mark. You've just got to call it a day. I'm 35, just around the corner, and I want to explore other avenues, other chapters of my life, and there are a lot of good young kids coming through, and for an gnarly old bugger like myself to hang around too long is, I think, not the way to go. So I'm trying to play as good as I can and try and go out on top.
The Newcastle attack are obviously going to miss you because you're a try-scoring freak. And we've actually got some footage of one of your best here, which is probably a few years ago now, where you put the little kick through for yourself. Now, we're going to see it from a different angle. You claimed the try, and pretty happy about it. I reckon you conservatively missed by 3 foot.
That was the... Well, that got us into our first semi-final, the club's first ever semi-final.
So that was the water of the try, was it?
That was the water of the try.
No wonder they brought in video referees after that. Yeah, of course. And of course, your glory days were, of course, winning the 1997 grand final. Just run us through that year again that you had.
Well, Malcolm really was there, and he'd been building a young team, Johns's, Muir's, Harragon's, and to us it felt like there was an inevitability about it. We had such a talented squad that if we were coached correctly and we had the right attitudes, that anything could happen. And we were lucky enough to go well through the semi-finals, and then we played a very committed Manly on the grand final day, and Darren Albert managed to just get us home, and we partied for a few weeks, and the memories are still vivid.
You partied very well too. One thing that the Newcastle boys can do is party. Unfortunately, this weekend there'll be about 12 to 15 less supporters that would have been there after your stage dive during the celebrations. Now, this was, a day afterwards.
The Screaming Jets are playing.
And there you go. Now, there are 12 people that have never been seen since there.
Mate, I think you'll find that's Matty Johns.
I don't think so. I don't think so.
But
Mate, sorry, can I just say, your expectations Sunday? Like, Newcastle love to get out and support their heroes.
Yeah, it'll be a big day. Traditionally, it's a big day in Newcastle. They get all the old boys, the ex-players back, and they have a bit of a tent and a few kegs, and there's a few laughs, and everyone reminisces after the game. But for those that are playing, we need to focus on the job at hand. It's going to be a big game against the Bulldogs. And
will Glenn Friendo be there?
Glenn Friendo will probably be there amongst Johnny Allison.
Yep.
Another crazy.
Robbie Chew. Robbie Chew might get a run, the redhead.
Sammy Stewart.
What are your thoughts on, of course, Matty Johns also playing his last home game. Your thoughts on Matty leaving the club?
Well, mate, I wasn't particularly happy about that decision, but as people know, those decisions aren't for us to make, and Matthew has handled it very professionally and is playing his best football and will play his best football as the semis continue through. But he's the ultimate pro, and we're also losing a couple of other players, Fairley and Peter Shields, and there'll be major losses.
All right, you've also got, of course, E.T. and a few other players, a tribute print coming out. Anthony Butterfield, there it is, Butts. And it's available on that number for all you Newcastle fans or rugby league fans in general. This man has been an institution at Newcastle since 1988, one of the greats of this club and a great team leader as well.
Actually, there's a few things happening apart from that print. Some T-shirts will be on sale. I think $20 up there, available on Sunday.
I've actually got some T-shirts for you boys here.
Oh, lovely.
That's the front, and that's the back.
Beautiful.
Now, the proceeds of these go to some worthy charities in Newcastle, the Westpac Helicopter Service and the John Hunter Children's Hospital Research Foundation. So,
well, I'll tell you what, I'll wear that with pride. Thanks very much.
And there's also a night up there as well, which actually I'm involved in.
I'll wear it with proud, Eddie.
August 15th at Newcastle Workers. There's a tribute night. So anybody up in Newcastle who wants to come out and say goodbye to Butts again, $23 up there through Ticketek. Come and say, I'm over here. Come and say goodbye to Butts again, get that opportunity.
All right, there he is. Get out there on Sunday and support him. He and Matthew Johns, great man. Tony Butterfield. Join you, Butts. Langers, Paul Langmack sitting out there in the rain. What are you doing out there?
Oh, Fatty, you remember last week I come on out unannounced to induct Andrew Eddinghausen and Gary Burns called me in during the week and I've been sin bin for a week not allowed in the studio.
All right, we'll send Butts out to see you then to get the certificate.
I just want to know, will he be leaving by the front gate? I don't have to wait out there.
So what have you got there, Langers? That's another inductee into yesterday's Hero Club.
Yes, he becomes the second member in this elite club of being inducted in yesterday's Hero Club. And Butts, I'll be waiting out the gate with my white suit on, so please stop.
Paul Langmack there. Good on you, Langers. Yep, another great man bites the dust, but there's always some new young guns on the horizon.
Week, I guess the biggest news for Newcastle fans, the fact that Adam MacDougall re-signed for another 4 years, but he certainly hasn't closed the door on heading overseas within that next 4-year period. This is what Adam MacDougall had to say at his press conference about the possibility of playing in the NFL.
Obviously there's a clause in there that if I've got an interest in another code or if I want to go over to try gridiron in the coming years, that I'm allowed to do that, so that's obviously a bonus for me, and I'm just honoured to be wanted by them 5 American gridiron teams. I suppose it's probably going to be the first in rugby league, and it's something I'm very much looking forward to.
Now look, the Chiefs up there at Newcastle, they take on the Canterbury Bulldogs today, and Paul Harragon joins us. G'day, Chief.
G'day, Fatty. How you going, mate?
What is doing up there, champion?
Well, I tell you what, it's a great day. Good conditions for a big one. Night's changes. Tamata Tahu is out. Darren Albert's in. Now, Lenny Beckett, there's been a bit of speculation about him being out with the carpet. He will play for the Bulldogs. There's no changes. But I tell you what, there's a big atmosphere here today, and all the tickets sold out for this game on Thursday night. But still, people who already had their tickets lined up at 6:30 this morning to make sure they could race around to get their spot on the hill. There's also rumours that a few people slept overnight just to get here. So it's a big atmosphere, and it can only happen in Newcastle, of course. But for the Knights, Tony Butterfield, who's the Knights, obviously the Knights captain, played 231 games. Will play his last home game today. But if they win, of course, I'll come back next week. Matthew Johns played 174 games. So it's a big send-off. Dave Feely and also Peter Shields. So it's pretty emotional here today. For the Bulldogs, Jason Hetherington also is going to England, so a bit of emotion there. Darryl Halligan playing his last game, full stop. He will retire after this game. And, of course, Brad Clyde, who's injured, has already played his last game. So plenty to play for both sides. But I just think verdict-wise, Newcastle Knights, big crowd here today. They will usher their 4 favourite sons out with a win, and they've got too much to play for. So should be a great game. Take care, boys. Back to you.
Chief, just quickly, what are your thoughts on Tony Butterfield? Played a lot of footy with him.
Well, I think his consistency is a sign of a champion. I've never played anyone like him. He debuted for State of Origin at the age of 32. He's 34 now. He's playing like a kid. He's just unbelievable. And 231 games in a tough position like front row, and the way that he plays and the size that he is, I think it's unreal, mate.
All right, Paul Harragon giving a fellow front rower a rap. That's very good. We'll take a break and come back and wrap it all up here.